Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Good morning, one and all. Welcome to our Morning Dew edition of the Dew Dissidents podcast. My name is Keaton Weiss, here, of course, with Russell Dobular. You didn't unmute your mic. You read my text message, but you didn't unmute your mic.
Hello. Did you not send me the message today and all the confusion?
No, I sent it to you on the private chat because amidst all the confusion, I don't want to touch my phone. So I'll explain to you guys what's going on here. So the reason we were a few minutes late, we apologize for that, is I had an internet outage here last night, and they fixed it last night. But as we all know, whenever you have an internet outage or a cable company problem, the first fix never takes, right? They show up, all right, fixed it, that ought to do. And then they go back. It's like, you call the plumber over. All right, you shouldn't have any more problems. Day goes by, you have a problem again, you got to call them back. That's the phase of fixing the internet that Spectrum is in right now. So we had some internet issues. It cut out a half hour before the show. Then it came back on for like a minute or two, which meant we wanted to switch from our hotspot to our internet, since I'm running this off my phone's hotspot now, folks. So we hope everything goes okay. We hope you can hear us clearly and the videos play okay. They should, but it might be a little bit buffered.
Seems good to me.
So far, knock on wood. Yeah. So far, so good. But if there are any technical issues, we assure you it is out of our control. It is in the hands of the cable company. So then we kind of switched to Wi-Fi and then back to hotspot before the show started. So thank you guys all for being here. Apologize for some lateness. We got 315 strong in the YouTube chat, 179 strong in the Rumble chat. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. Lovely to see you all. Lots to get to today. So why don't we get started? Russell, you wanted to answer the losers and the haters. You had a retort to all the losers and the haters before we start?
All right.
The losers and the haters were trolling Russell.
There is no cult like the Tesla cult. Now,
well, you're wrong about that, but we'll get to that later. There's one. Which I mean,
I do have a copy of Going Clear back here, so there is definitely one. The
incels for Malay cult is kind of more bizarre.
Have they realized though? Are they continuing with that?
Well,
now
what was so bizarre about that is they didn't know who he was
Biden?
Until like 3 weeks ago, and they got so invested in him without knowing anything about him. But anyway, we have a segment on that later, so we'll get to that later. But yes, the Elon people, yeah, for sure. The Tesla people, more specifically, right?
So they're. I mean, it's beyond Elon. Like, there's just a cult of Tesla. There's a cult of Tesla, and I mentioned that in the segment that we did. That this group really propped up that stock through thick and thin. And it's interesting. Like, it's very Reddit. It's very Wall Street bets. Like, everybody who took exception to my analysis of Tesla's prospects said exactly the same things. They all made exactly the same arguments. So let me, before I say this is for entertainment purposes only, and it is in no way to be construed as financial advice. And in the interest of full disclosure, I have put my money where my mouth is. I'm not saying this because I have a stake in Ford. I have a stake in Ford because this is what I believe. So Tesla just introduced its Cybertruck. How's that been going, guys? How's that been going? So Tesla said they were going to offer their Cybertruck for $39,000. Turns out the bottom make, the absolute stripped down rear wheel drive make, is going to be over $60,000. To get four wheel drive, you got to spend about $80,000, and to get triple drive, you got to spend about $100,000. So the market has not reacted very well to that. Tesla has lost about 5-6% over the last few trading sessions, largely on the heels of disappointment with the Cybertruck. So the argument a lot of people are making in those comments, identically making the same point, is that Ford is losing money on all of its new electric vehicles. To which I would argue, and this doesn't just apply to Ford, even though I picked Ford specifically because nobody has the brand loyalty on trucks that Ford does. So I believe that they're poised, once people really adopt electric trucks,
it's also
to
consistent with his anti-Semitism and self-hating Jewry.
Well, that was a while ago, Let bygones be bygones. Yeah, see? Now, hey, at least I'm not an investor in Volkswagen.
Yeah.
So that's why I picked Ford, but I would apply the argument I'm making here to GM as well, that these are the same people. This is what's funny. The real Tesla devotees they rode it out through years of Tesla losing money as they scaled up the operation. They just kept putting money into Tesla, saying it's going to take time. That's what kept Tesla stock from tanking. It was really these people who really believed in it. It was really the first meme stock. It was the original meme stock. That's why all these short sellers always got burned every time they shorted Tesla. So these people rode out years of losses. Every quarter, Tesla would lose money. They would do capital raises. They would dilute their stock by doing big offerings. And y'all rode that out with the logic, rightly so, that it's going to take time to scale it up and make it a profitable operation. So why would you make an argument with legacy car companies that are just getting into this space and just starting to build battery factories and just starting to establish the infrastructure, that because they're losing money on these cars right now, that's it? They're not going to be able to scale the operation. My argument is that they're going to be able to scale the operation because they have 100 years of experience scaling operations, and they're going to do it a lot faster than Tesla was able to do it, because Tesla was trying to figure it out from scratch with no real experience. And these companies have a brand loyalty that Ford doesn't have. And on a last point, some people pointed out that they had a gas car business as a liability. And actually, that's a strength. Like, some are saying, well, if they increase the electric car business, they're going to cannibalize their gas business. I don't see that. I think it's two different markets. And if you believe that would happen, then that would have happened anyway, because people would have just bought electric vehicles from others if you have that much of a cultural shift. So at least they're getting in on that. But unlike Tesla, if for whatever reason people decide they don't want electric cars, they have a business to fall back on. Tesla does not. This is it. And if people decide they don't want electric cars, or they don't want Tesla's electric cars, that's the whole ball game for Tesla. They don't have anything else. So that's my argument. I'm sticking to that story. So I'm going to make my first prediction. Now we do an annual predictions for next year. So I think we could safely say I was right about Disney when we go back and do the review. Tesla will be worth less a year from now than it is today. That is my first prediction for 2024. Not to be construed as financial advice.
Okay, moving on now. Let's start the program. We have some announcements to make. It's an inside joke. We have some announcements to make.
Have you seen Behind the Green Door? Because yeah. The African-American gentleman in it was hung like, if I might say, a Nathan sausage of particularly prodigious girth.
Yeah. We have some announcements that we got to make here, folks. Big week of programming coming up on Sunday, this Sunday, 7 p.m. Special guest Matt Taibbi returns to the show. That will be a fun program. Then on Wednesday night at 8 p.m., this is something we're very much looking forward to. Katie Halper, yes, you heard that right. Katie Halper will be joining the program at 8 p.m. on Wednesday night. So we got a full week of guest programming coming up. And we will be, hopefully if they fix my goddamn internet by then, co-hosting the Jimmy Dore Show today at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Yep. So we will see you all tonight. The old day-night doubleheader going on today. So you'll be seeing plenty of us JOOs as the day and as the week pans out. And so we hope that you are all locked in for a good time. We want to begin by paying our respects to a fallen idol. Russell, you had some brief words to say. Right?
Did you mention Taibbi? I got distracted.
Of course I mentioned that, yeah. I sat through the whole Tesla thing, paying attention, hanging on every word. I speak for 2 minutes, and you're like, oh, what did you say? I wasn't paying attention.
Listen, man, you cannot call me out for not paying attention, because half the time when I'm talking, you pull out a fucking coloring book, and you're like, so don't even talk to me about it. All right, so as we all know, a very controversial figure on the world stage passed away this week. A very divisive figure, loved by some, hated by others, but someone whose impact will certainly not only outlast their lifetime, but probably all of our lifetimes. I am, of course, speaking of Shane MacGowan, the hard-drinking poet of the Pogues who died this week at the age of 65. Now, MacGowan described in his memoir having a what some would claim is a typical Irish upbringing, drinking and smoking with his family from the age of 5. And that is a habit that, unfortunately for him, he never quite got over. Hard drinker, kind of went into heroin, so he became infamous not only for his amazing music, where he kind of pioneered this sound of combining punk with traditional Irish music, a sound that's been followed by a lot of others, like the Dropkick Murphys.
What's that other band? The Fratellis. They're definitely inspired by the Pogues. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's another one right now. What is it? Gogol.
Gogol Bordello. Yeah. But they're not quite.
That sound.
I could see that because it's kind of like carnival music of a kind, but it's not. From what I know of Gogol Bordello, it's not really Celtic inspired. Where like the Fratellis are definitely like a Celtic pub band. But the Pogues were great. You did a cover of Fairy Tale of New York for Christmas one year, which we were going to play some segments on the stream, but it'll get a copyright claim if we do. And so, we'd be allowed to play it, but we wouldn't be able to monetize the stream. So when we clip this segment, we'll include some of Russell's outtakes and performance of Fairy Tale of New York, which is a beautiful song, one of my favorite Christmas songs ever. It's amazing, and so rest in peace.
He was a poet. This will show you, and for our Irish listeners, Flogging Molly.
Flogging Molly, that's the one. Yeah.
Yes. Virtuoso he nailed it.
Yep.
Those of you who are familiar with the complexities of Irish music, don't take this in an insulting way. You can laugh at me, and I laughed at myself because when we drop this, it's kind of a montage of me fucking that song up. So I took up piano at the ripe old age of 47. And so I had been playing about 3 years when I decided that I'm going to do Fairy Tale of New York for Christmas. Because I thought it was easy. I was like, it's an Irish punk band. How hard could this be? Pretty fucking hard, man, to maintain that.
Oh, yeah.
And you like that.
Irish
to maintain
music
that for
is
an entire
deceptively
song.
difficult to play because in terms of theory, it's fairly easy because it's major keys, a lot of 1, 4, 5, a minor here or there, nothing complicated. But the chords move very, very quickly, especially on a piano. It's tough. On a guitar, it's a little easier because the fingers kind of lead into themselves. But on the piano, Irish tunes are not easy to play, especially on the piano.
Yeah, and the way that they transposed the flute solo for the piano, I'd only been playing for 3 years at that point. It required like a lot of technique, like you could only hit it that fast with like there were techniques my piano teacher taught me to bounce off the keys to hit those kind of trills that way. Really hard to play. So yeah, we'll attach that to this clip.
Indeed. So, if you're watching the clip version on YouTube, enjoy these outtakes and performance of Fairy Tale of New York. All right, now back to the live stream. Beautiful. Another death this week, of course. We had the privilege and the honor of breaking on Friday night at 8 p.m. on our show that Henry Kissinger had passed away at the ripe old age of 100, cause of death, suffocation. Amy Schumer sat on his face too long, and he was gasping for air. He was very libidinous right till the end. People thought he was too old for that, and it turns out he was. But he died doing what he loved.
I have always said women who say vagina in every other syllable is the ultimate aphrodisiac.
I told her anything that squirts on anything that moves. And that's how he went out. Henry Kissinger, dead of, I assume, natural causes.
This is the best birthday present my friend Chuck ever sent me.
Indeed. Folks, we could do what everybody else is doing, which is, give a rundown of why people should be glad at Henry Kissinger's passing. I thought Nick Cruz made a good point. He said, look, we could gloat about it, but the fact is he won. He made it to 100. When you make it to 100, you basically live forever. That's the closest to immortality you can get to.
You're gonna burn.
I don't know that that's a victory, man. All eternity now. He's going to get red hot pokers up his fucking wrinkled old ass.
Christopher Hitchens famously, when Jerry Falwell died, people asked Hitchens, they say, if there is a heaven, is Jerry Falwell there? And Christopher Hitchens' great line about Jerry Falwell was, no, Jerry Falwell is not in heaven. And he said, it's a pity there isn't a hell for him to go to. That's a good line about Jerry Falwell.
Where the fuck do you get the balls?
But we thought the best way to send off Henry Kissinger would be to play the late, great Christopher Hitchens. This is one of the last times in his life that he spoke about the infamous Secretary of State and the most prolific war criminal of the 20th and 21st centuries, arguably Henry Kissinger. This was Hitchens looking pretty rough because this was towards the end of the road for him, but this is one of the last times he was asked to speak about Henry Kissinger, asked if he would meet with him and talk with him if he had the chance.
If Henry Kissinger decided to call you and try to bury the hatchet after all these years?
That'd be extremely interesting. But one of the reasons I detest him is I sort of know that couldn't happen. He wouldn't even agree when I was writing my book about him to have questions submitted in writing, let alone to meet me. He's made it a condition when he...
Sorry, folks, this is as loud as this video goes, so if the volume is a little low, we apologize.
...appears on television programs that he not be asked about the book. I know this from the producers, several of them.
Okay, I cut that off mid-sentence, but what he says here, he had as a condition of TV and press appearances that interviewers not ask him about Hitchens' famous book, The Trial of Henry Kissinger.
He's made it a condition when he appears on television programs that he not be asked about the book. I know this from the producers, several of them. He made it a condition of his appearance at the National Press Club, which I don't think should have agreed, that he not be asked about the book. Never mind his attitude to me. There's no reason to like me, but I would have pretended, if I was him, I'd have pretended, who's this guy Hitchens? I don't care. But I know I needled him. But more important, if you think of the things he's been found out as having done, lying about Vietnam, lying about Chile, Bangladesh, East Timor, the deaths of so many people needlessly for the vanity of himself and his criminal president. We have other people from that period in our history, Robert McNamara, the Bundy brothers, others, William Colby, who, in their books and their memoirs, tried to make some kind of restitution. They said, actually, this was pretty bad policy. And we sort of suspected at the time that it was bad, maybe worse. And we're sort of sorry. And actually, we have some evidence we feel we should share with you. Some disclosures that you should have had at the time. Made some attempt. Kissinger's never said a word of self-criticism, not one. And he gets very petulant and angry and spoiled and ugly when he's criticized. So, as Jeeves says in another context, Bertie, the contingency, sir, is a remote one. But if he was to try it, I'd be fascinated to meet him, of course.
Of course. Yeah, this was a report. Usually we edit that out of the clips. In this case, we'll keep it in since it has a double meaning, right?
Yes.
666
it really
for sure.
Does.
It
really
does. It works. It was well timed for sure. No thanks. Sorry, my wife offered me a hash brown from McDonald's, but I can't eat on the air. That would be rude. Yeah. So this was a report that came out. There was a report that came out in The Intercept just about a year ago. I believe we covered it on this show. That said the exact same thing, that what makes Kissinger especially odious is not only does he represent the sort of banality of evil, as many have put it, right? Just like this bureaucrat who, with no feeling or emotion, just as matter of routine, makes decisions that kill hundreds of thousands here, hundreds of thousands there. I mean, his body count is in the millions. And I'm not talking about the kind of body, I'm not talking about the Amy Schumer type body count. I'm talking about deaths, right? this guy, obviously, his record speaks for itself, but he never showed any remorse. Not only did he never show any remorse, he would get, as Hitchens said there, very petulant, very sarcastic, very defensive. He never second-guessed any of the things that he ever did. Never expressed an ounce of regret. And so that's why I thought that was a fitting send-off to him. Let Christopher Hitchens get one of his last words in there.
Well, one of the things I have found very interesting in some of the retrospective, so when I was a child, Henry Kissinger was like a pop star. Like I remember that Henry Kissinger was this ubiquitous figure that would be listed, photographed with Joe Namath and Jane Fonda, right? He was in the smart set. He was very chic. He was very cool. All of his press coverage was positive. If I am not mistaken, there was a comic book. I loved this when I was a child, of Superman versus Muhammad Ali, and the cover was all the celebrities of that age, and I'm pretty sure they had Kissinger in there as one of the people sitting ringside to see this. Like, that is how ubiquitous he was. Even in a children's comic, they made a Kissinger reference. And it just shows you, we and we'll talk about this with Taibbi, I'm sure, on Sunday. As much as the press has undoubtedly declined, they've always been whores that way. They've always been suckers for these bloodthirsty, coup-driving security state goons like Henry Kissinger. They've always covered for people like this. Really, I mean, they made him a pop star in the 70s.
Yep. I remember reading about that. Obviously, wasn't around to experience it, but I did know that about him.
Well, you're seeing it in some of the coverage now. In some of the coverage, they are dealing with that popularity he had during that period. And also, one point, I made this point when we were covering Kissinger in the past. I look at Kissinger very much like the chapter in Campbell's Hero of a Thousand Faces that deals with the amoral scientist engineer type. And he uses Daedalus, who designs the maze that Theseus has to negotiate past the Minotaur in order to get home, as an example of that type. This is the scientist. It's an archetype that comes up in myths. Sometimes they're a wizard, and they don't have any morals. They're just curious, right? They're interested in what happens if you mix this with this and make this. And my take on a guy like Kissinger is he is Daedalus, and he's as good or as bad as the person directing his efforts. Like, yeah, I mean, Kissinger knew a lot about a lot. With a moral president, he might have been one of the great secretaries of state. You put him together with Nixon, that's throwing a match on gasoline. You're putting together an amoral, brilliant guy with a guy with these deep insecurities, hatreds, and resentments running this war in Southeast Asia. How's that going to end?
Well, we know how it ended. Alrighty, folks, let's take some super chats while we're here. For those of you who are filing in late, we started a little late because of tech issues. I am running this off of my personal hotspot on my phone. So for that reason, I don't think I'm going to be able to do the patron scroll today because that taxes the system a lot when I screen share a motion image. So I don't want to take any chances and have the fucking stream cut out. So I'll hit the patrons back. I'll give you 2 shout outs on the next stream. Hold me to that. Beginning and end. Christian Fortin, thanks for the $5. Kissinger and the U.S. plutocrats are to international relationships what rapists are, yes, to love. Yeah, indeed. That's well put. Christian, thank you. McDougal, thanks for the $5. Morning, fellas. My weekly outreach from the MAGA delegation. Thank you. Less than a year left before we save this country with your help. Free Trump. Thank you, McDougal. Appreciate that.
They are never letting that man back in the White House. Somebody, hey, if I wind up being wrong, man, our enemies are going to have a field day with supercuts of me saying that. So
yeah. Samuel Bruce, thanks for the $2.99. Oh, speaking of the White House, apparently, we mentioned on the last show that there was supposed to be a DeSantis versus Newsom debate and whatever happened to it. Apparently, it was last night.
It happened?
Came and went. Yeah, what happened last night? Apparently, came and went. No one cared.
And nobody paid any attention to it. That's funny.
Not really. Not
wow.
really. It's a dud.
I mean, because we're in this space and like nobody talked about it.
Nobody gave a shit. No. I just saw on YouTube that I think Pac-Man live streamed it last night. And so, faithful Pac-Man viewer that I am, I saw that he was covering it. But yeah, apparently that happened. Zaldivar, thanks for the $5. Keaton the Maltese Falcon Weiss. Yes, pecking out the eyes of the establishment. Yes, the Maltese Falcon. That's right. Somebody.
Right.
So one of my losers and haters
for you. I like that.
One of my losers and haters said that when I called myself a Semite because I'm Jewish, they say, Keaton, you're foolish. You're not a Semite just because you're Jewish. Well, that's using a definition of Semite that's like went obsolete like almost 100 years ago. Now they trace Semite back to if you are a descendant from a Semitic language speaking people, which not only am I Semitic on my Jewish side, but fun fact, I am Semitic on my Maltese side, because this is a thing that a lot of people don't know. Maltese is actually a Semitic language, because even though it's 60 miles off the coast of Sicily, it's right in the Mediterranean, so the culture and the language actually is mostly influenced by Arabic. So Maltese is considered a Semitic language. So I'm actually a Semite on both sides, full Semite.
So even if you question the Semitic origin of Ashkenazi Jews, Keaton can still claim to be Semitic.
I can still claim to be a Semite. I got my backup. Kissinger died on the 29th, which is International Palestinian Solidarity Day. Look it up. No bullshit. Kissinger died on the 29th. Okay, you repeated that twice. Got your money's worth for the $9.99. Beautiful. Thank you very much, Mama Lask. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
We got some Rumble rants coming in. We are without Jake today, so I am fielding Rumble rants myself, and I hope our stream is coming through good. So
good
far, no complaints, so that's beautiful. Love to see that. All right, we will take some more Super Chats in a few moments. Thank you guys all for pitching in those Super Chats. All right, here's another story. About a slightly less desirable creature than Henry Kissinger. I'm sorry, slightly more desirable creature than Henry Kissinger.
I'd say more.
Yeah, sorry, I misspoke there. That was my fault. Russell, take it away on this one. You picked this one out. Our animal story, Friday animal stories.
I like animal stories, and I like Australia. So this brought together both in one story. And very often Australia stories are animal stories because everything in that country is trying to kill you. So a rat plague,
you guys ever see those videos in Australia of like giant reptiles and bugs? Seems it's a scene.
As most of you know, I was married to an Australian for a number of years. And we go, she's from Bondi Beach in Sydney. And the first night we're there, and I understand, this is not like the outback, man. This is like the city. There's a spider the size of my hand on the wall the first night we're there. And she's like, oh, yeah, there's a spider that looks like that's poisonous and one that isn't. I'm like, oh, really? So which is it? So we're sitting there at 2:00 in the morning with a laptop Googling these two spiders and holding up the laptop and looking at the spider on the wall and trying to figure out which one it is.
No, fuck that. Fuck that. I went to Connecticut. I got bitten by a killer horsefly. That's about all the exotic insects I could take. I know a spider's not an insect technically, an arachnid, whatever. I'm not good with spiders either. To me, there's nothing creepier than a hairy spider. A tarantula, oh my God. They freak me the fuck out. So yeah, no, Australia I can never do.
No, even
it's too far
the water.
Anyway. I wouldn't want to.
Yeah, it's like a 24-hour flight.
Yeah.
No, even the water. Forget about the sharks. Everyone thinks of the sharks. That's bad enough. I just stayed near the kids because I figured the sharks would go for them first.
But you'd be able to outswim them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like there's the joke: the two guys being chased through the jungle by a lion. One guy turns to the other guy, says, "This is hopeless. We're never going to be able to outrun this lion." Guy tells him, "I'm not trying to outrun the lion. I'm just trying to outrun you."
Trying to outrun you. Exactly. No, then they have, I think they're called blue bottle jellyfish. And these are jellyfish that will sting you like where you'll scream. And they often get like massive inflows of them. The last day I was there, that happened. And these people like screaming in the water.
Right.
It's fucked up there. So if you asked me, If you told me about this story, but you didn't tell me what country and asked me what country did I think it happened in, my first guess would be Australia. If this would happen anywhere, it would be Australia. So rat plague hits an Australian coastal town, and thousands more wash up on shore. A plague of rats is creating havoc in Karumba, a small coastal town in Queensland. That's also where they have the crocodiles, like really, really dangerous, vicious crocodiles, where hordes of rodents are chewing on electrical wires and otherwise eating everything they can find and washing up dead in massive numbers, creating a literal stink in the community. Quote, the stench is quite bad. Carpentaria Shire Council Mayor Jack Bawden, whose shire includes Karumba, were they hobbits? Told NPR. But if coastal wind, I didn't even know they used that term. But if coastal winds prevail, he added, it is still livable. It's not unusual for thousands of visitors to descend on Karumba, whose human population numbers in the hundreds. Those annual guests are gray nomads, retirees who arrive in campers and RVs, drawn by the allure of scenic water views, fishing, and a laid-back atmosphere. But alarms were raised earlier this year. In July, a Carpentaria official informed the Shire's council that the public have reported an increasing number of rats and mice. The council considered creating a fact sheet about what the meeting minutes dubbed a rat plague. I'm going to play this segment for my ex. It's going to hurt her ears. They come
I'll be
in
back in
waves.
1 second. Keep going. Don't worry. I'll be back by the time.
Karumba resident John Jensen told the 4BC radio station in Brisbane, they almost seem trained and organized. They're in numbers, mate, and they swim around in the rivers like little puppy dogs. Everywhere they go, the rats eat and eat. They're hungry. They've swum a long way. They've come across land a long way, Jensen said, and they're eating anything and everything they can get their hands on. Rats destroyed a car by attacking its wiring at Derek Lord's rental business in Normanton near Karumba, he told Agence France Presse. The rodents were so bold, he added, they broke into his ducks' cages and stole their eggs. You can't even escape them out on the water. Rats have been scampering up anchor chains of charter and fishing boats. Commercial fisherman Brett Fallon has been seeing at least 100 rats a night on his boat, he told Australia's ABC. What a nightmare. To the layperson, a plague of rats, you missed the best part. Like, they took down a car, these rats. To the layperson,
I read the article. I prepared it for you.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
To the layperson, a plague of rats might seem to signal the apocalypse, you think. But Gray says the long-haired rats arrive in cycles. This quote, this phenomenon is a natural process and occurs at irregular intervals ranging from 3 to 17 years, she said. The last large rat migration or eruption in the region, Gray said, happened around 12 years ago, but records of them go back for centuries. This is like the Evil Dead series. As quickly as the rats erupt or boom in numbers, so too do they decline or bust, Gray said. The decline can be linked to several factors, from a change to dry conditions to increases in inbreeding and disease and predators that feast on the rodent influx. Feral cats, for instance, are eating well. I bet they are. Generally, during a rat eruption, the area also sees a significant increase in the number of predatory birds such as letter-winged kites, black-shouldered kites, and eastern barn owls, Gray said. To Bawden the mayor, the rats are a nasty quirk of nature, and nature usually cleans up its own mess. Not in that fucking country. He added, this year we have them in all their glory and can't wait for them to disappear. So there you go. That's what's going on in Australia, which has the world's deadliest animals. That everything in that country is trying to kill you on land and on sea.
And on sea, imagine seeing them swimming. Imagine seeing thousands of rats swimming in the water. It's got to be one of the eeriest images. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, Australia's crazy like that. Like, it's like the land that time forgot. Because even the not dangerous animals look like God's acid trip, man. Like, you've just got, like, our pigeons over there, like birds that are ubiquitous like that in city squares, are like these birds with these curved beaks and multicolor. Like, it's like you dropped acid in Central Park, and this is what the animals look like to you. That's what just the even not trying to kill you animals look like in Australia.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. Yeah, that was a fun one. Richard said he could resist that hash brown no longer. No.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a beautiful country. It's lovely. When we went there, she asked me, what do you think of it? I said, I think what I knew I would think. I don't know why we live in New York. So I'm not saying that, but, you know, you do. It's something that I think people who live in Western countries like the United States or in Europe, you just don't have a concept of that. Like living in a place that's laid out very much along those lines, where there are so many deadly animals around and snakes and spiders and things that could kill you right in the city. It's very strange.
Yeah, it is weird. I mean, I can imagine. It's like a different world. It's like this weird kind of universe where all these things exist there that don't exist here. Like that old exploitation, that action movie, Empire of the Ants. Remember that one? Where these tourists get stranded on this island and there are these giant ants? Yeah, that's kind of what it seems like.
Oh, and they're always, because I take an interest in it because, you know, I was married to an Australian. It's very weird. Like every now and then you'll just have a story. This was like a swim club that went out of like the senior swim club, and they come out and one of them is missing. Hey, what happened to Dolores? And she was eaten by a shark. You know, like shit like that happens there all the time.
All right, we'll move on. We got some Rumble rants to get to. We got a lot of Rumble rants, actually. Beautiful. So thank you guys very much for sending those Rumble rants in. I'm just copying and pasting. And yeah, no, I did not eat the hash brown. I needed a good old bathroom break because we didn't get a chance for a bathroom break because we were scrambling before the show because our internet was not working. So my Nord Stream pipeline got a little backed up. I had to go take care of that. So let's move on.
So I told you if my ex listened to this, it's going to hurt her ears.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
It doesn't have to be good for Australians. I've looked at the analytics. We've got like, I don't know, man, like 0.5% of you guys. So
no, we got we have some regular Aussie viewers.
We do. Yeah, we always have.
Or Aussie? Is it Aussie or Aussie? How do you say it? It's spelled Aussie, but some people say you're supposed to say Aussie.
I think they would say Aussie.
Right.
Like Z, like a Z.
Okay, got it. All right. Wow, these Rumble rants are coming in fast. I wish we had Jake today, but it's Friday, so we don't have Jake on Friday. So I'm doing my best, Rumblers. We'll get to you in just a second here. Let's take some of these right now. Good morning. Shiva really is a contentious interviewee. Yes, he is. Just tell everyone you're doing it and you're setting it up to be a doubleheader event directly followed by the Musk Rat Faceberg fight. You're welcome. Yeah. No, not gonna happen. Sorry, but thank you. Everybody keeps lobbying us to interview Shiva. I'm telling you, no, we're holding the line on that. Hey guys, just signed up to the locals the other day. Thank you. Just wondering when the Sexy Do Dissidents fireman calendar comes out. Yeah, we should put out a calendar next year. A lot of ladies in my life who need Christmas presents. That would be a fun perk. We'll have to do that.
You know, we have a merch store, but no calendar.
No calendar. We should make a calendar. That would be fun.
We should.
Our Congress just conflated Zionism with anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, despite the inconvenience of many Zionists being evangelicals and Semites, also including non-Zionist Jews, Arabs generally, and every Palestinian. Yes, indeed. We covered that a little bit on the last show, but yeah, quite awful. And that passed 412-1, the lone vote not being Rashida Tlaib, but Republican Thomas Massie. And part two of that Rumble rant, the Zionists are appropriating Semitism to the exclusion of all others with equal and better claims in the same way as they have been appropriating the Holy Land. These parallels are part of, I think you ran out of room there on that one, but point taken, and it is a good one, so thank you.
There is Ilan Pape. He's I believe he's Israeli. He's been a longtime critic of Israel, and he said, Zionists usually don't believe in God, but they all believe that he promised them Palestine.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a good one. Two, he took his 100th trip to China at the age of 100. That's Henry Kissinger, to attempt to broker peace. He is held in high regard there. Yes, they rolled out the red carpet for him in stark contrast to Blinken at all. Yes. He was popular in China for many years for that reason. Thank you for that. If one GP is Jewish, you are allowed ROR. What is that? The influx of Russians and Ukrainians was enormous leading up to 10-7, mostly atheists. There were 1 or 2 legit Russian-Ukrainian Jews in my Hebrew class. One GP. What does that mean?
One general practitioner?
Yeah, maybe. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. And good morning from the Northwest. 6 a.m. here. I must be obsessed with you guys. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. We'll take it. All right. We'll do a couple more super chats over here on YouTube. James Wesley Wheat, thanks for the $2. Best eulogy ever from Christopher Hitchens. Yes. Were you referring to Christopher Hitchens or my Amy Schumer joke? I thought they were both pretty good. I'll give the advantage to Hitchens just to be classy. Celicia123 became a YouTube member. Thank you for your support. Appreciate that. Folks, can we hit the like button, please? Let's work the algorithm here in the morning. Hit the like button on YouTube and Rumble. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that follow button over on Rumble as well. Oops, did I skip the line? Yeah, I skipped the line on the super chats. That's my bad. My bad. All right, I'll do a couple more. Dave Dillarai, thanks for the $10. Woke up at 5 like shit. The ceasefire expired. Yeah, the truce is off. Check Twitter. Zionist bombing South Gaza now. Disgusting. Unbelievable. 7 days of ceasefire. The world couldn't evoke the genocide conventions. Phase 2 brutality is upon us. Yep. Can't wait to hear what all the progressives who called for the pause have to say now that the pause is come and gone, and now things are going to continue to get worse. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. Judy, thanks for the 99-cent super sticker. Appreciate that. Nicole Vance, thanks for the $10. Good morning, gentlemen. Home today with the flu. Oh, that's I'm sorry to hear that, Nicole. Feel better. Miss all the lives anymore. Russell's a little sick, too. Russell's feeling a little under the weather.
I took a shot of the Dayquil before this.
Yeah. Russell's feeling a little under the weather.
Liz Dragon confirms Elon Pape is Israeli.
Oh, okay. Got it. Rod New, is that how I say that? I'm trying to get that name right now. Russell has one of the best business acumen. Really enjoy hearing from him on business and finance. He is way more knowledgeable than goons on cartoon TV, aka CNBC and Bloomberg. There you go. Glad you enjoyed that.
Not to be construed as financial advice.
Not to be construed as financial advice.
Thank you.
Judy, Russ, please grant Keaton remote access to your mic volume at the start of the show. We have access to each other's mic volume, and it's easier when Jake is here, but I hope he's coming through good. It sounds good on my end.
We have our mics set exactly the same way now, so beyond that, it's technique.
Beyond that, it's just a matter of me being more talented. I'm kidding.
More or less.
I'm joking.
More or less.
We kid. But yeah, no, it's just a matter of adjusting to the mic because now Russell's hearing himself for the first time. So now the monitor.
Now I'm used to that. The first show, it threw me off for like half the show.
Right.
It was just very weird. It was like hearing your own echo. Now I got used to it. Now it seems right to me at this point.
Got it.
Like it sounds in my ear monitor, it sounds right. It's also, I rewatch some, like we have a different vocal quality.
We do.
Like definitely. He's got that Alan Alda very like radio voice.
Yeah, I do.
I got a more like Tom Waits, old drunk at the corner bar kind of thing going on.
Exactly.
The piano has been drinking.
Yeah, there you go. That's good. That's a good Tom Waits. I like that. Yeah. Here, I'm going to skip the line here because George Odinson, thanks for the 15. Are those do you live in Israel, George? Are you from Haifa? Are you also on Rumble?
Right of return.
Grandparent is GP and right of return. Okay, ROR. Beautiful. Thank you, George. Appreciate that. I think you gave us the Rumble rant as well. I think George is supporting us in both places at once. How about a round of applause for George, keeping both windows open? All right, guys, let's move on here. We got a lot more show to do. We got off to a late start, so let's keep this train moving along. This is a segment we've been wanting to do for a while because this article came out well over a week ago, but given everything else going on in the world, we've kept bumping it and bumping it and bumping it. But now that Joe Biden's poll numbers are tanking with young people over his handling of the Israel war, you would think the sort of card that he might want to pull out of the deck at the last minute before Election Day would be broad-based student debt cancellation, right? Remember, he did it, and then the Supreme Court shot it down, and then he said, we're going to change our rationale so that we win the next argument should it be challenged in court. We are going to not invoke the HEROES Act as we did the first time, but now we will invoke the Higher Education Act, which is what we were originally advised to do. So all that was supposed to change was the justification for the debt cancellation, not the size and scope of the debt cancellation itself. However, let's take a look here at what we know so far from CNBC about Biden's Plan B for student loan forgiveness. President Joe Biden's new plan to forgive student loan debt is likely to look much different than his first. After the Supreme Court ultimately blocked Biden's policy that would have canceled up to $20,000 in student loan debt for tens of millions of people in June, the president immediately announced that he would attempt to deliver relief another way. His administration has already started that process and established a student loan debt relief committee, including Wisdom Cole at the NAACP, Kyra Taylor at the National Consumer Law Center, and several student loan borrowers to hash out the details. Here's what we know so far. Nearly 40 million Americans stood to benefit from Biden's original student loan forgiveness plan. The president's Plan B for relief is likely to be much narrower in its reach, said higher education expert Mark Kantrowitz. That's because the justices ruled that the president's original plan, which would have covered more than 90% of federal student loan borrowers, was too far-reaching. No, it was too far-reaching under the HEROES Act. The whole point was to invoke a different law to justify it, not to scrap 80% of the relief, as you'll see they are about to do. Quote, can the secretary use his powers to abolish $430 billion in student loans, completely canceling loan balances for 20 million borrowers as a pandemic winds down to its end? Key word, because the HEROES Act was invoked for a lot of pandemic relief measures, wrote Chief Justice John Roberts in the majority opinion for Biden versus Nebraska. We can't believe the answer would be yes. Less than 10%, hold on, let me just get this sentence out because this is the big thing. Less than 10% of federal student loan borrowers are likely to qualify this round, Kantrowitz said.
And just to point out, at the point that they decided to pursue that route, the court had already demonstrated deep skepticism, even of using that act to protect people from eviction.
Right.
Now, if you're not going to think that in a pandemic people should not be homeless, the court is going to rule in favor of using it to cancel student loan debt. Of course they're not. You don't have to be a lawyer to figure that out.
No, it was the most predictable thing ever. If they're going to rule against emergency measures to keep people housed, then they're not going to rule in favor of an emergency measure to cancel $20,000 of student loan debt. Anybody could have seen that coming, as Russell just said. Luke Hareen, an assistant professor of law at the University of Alabama, also believes the next forgiveness policy will include far fewer borrowers. I think it would be easier to justify in front of a court that is skeptical of broad authority, Hareen said in an earlier interview with CNBC. The court is not categorically skeptical of broad authority, at least according to this ruling. The court rejected the rationale for the action. The Higher Education Act very clearly gives the Secretary of Education the power to suspend, if not outright cancel, student loan debt repayments. And so if you can't technically cancel it, you can say, okay, all student loans are due to restart in 2135, 110 years, right? And that would be sound according to that law. The Biden administration seems focused on still delivering relief to 5 specific groups of borrowers, according to a recent paper issued by the U.S. Department of Education. Now, this is neoliberalism. This is Democrat shit. Okay, yeah, we're going to help you if you meet this criteria. Borrowers with current balances greater than what they originally borrowed, those who entered into repayments 25 or more years ago, students who attended programs of questionable value. All right, well, who's to say what's questionable value? Does that mean art history majors get the relief? I mean, you could make a case, I think, that a lot of this is of questionable value. Borrowers eligible for existing relief programs, including public service loan forgiveness, who just haven't applied, and debtors in financial hardship. So you would think that
basically everyone who didn't get a law degree or an MBA is going to qualify.
Yeah, well, yes, I would say you could make that case very, very well. I don't know how well the government would understand that. But you would think, given Joe Biden's just tanking numbers with young people, that he might want to deliver on this. Maybe this could win back some of those voters. Not many. I mean, the young voters of any principle are not going to sell out the Palestinian people for, $10 grand worth of student loan debt relief. I certainly wouldn't. But you would think he might want to try that. No. I mean, they are literally doing this is like they are trying to lose at this point.
Right. Well, especially if you look at the parameters of what they're describing, what relief they do give is going to go to old people.
Right.
You're talking about people who entered repayment 20, 25 years ago. It's not even going to go to young people.
Right.
So what is this going to do for young people? Like, those parameters don't even make any sense for electoral purposes. It's just trying to show that they're doing something. I mean, it's a typical Democratic Party move. Do the bare minimum and then blame the other guys for not doing something better.
Right. Exactly. All right, folks, we are getting very close to hitting our goal of 500 members. We need 500 paid members to afford adding a fourth weekly stream. And so you can go to patreon.com/DoDissidents and help make that happen. We are in the 460s right now, so we could hit this theoretically in the next week or so and be doing Thursday streams before the end of the year, which would be ahead of schedule. So if you want to help make that happen and support us, go to patreon.com/DoDissidents. You get your name up in lights on days when the internet's working properly. You also get call-in access to the Sunday Q&A shows, and you get access to 2 monthly patron-exclusive live streams. So we do 2 full shows exclusively for Patreon members, paid Substack subscribers, and paid Locals members. You can also go to dodissidents.substack.com to sign up, or dodissidents.locals.com. If you're over on Rumble, and there are over 400 of you over on Rumble now, you can hit that join button right under the screen and sign up on Locals and get access to all of those perks. You guys are the backbone of the show. We thank you all very much for your support. The more support we have, the more censor-proof the operation, the more streams we can add, the more projects we can do. And so please, if you can, Patreon, Substack, or Locals. Perks are the same across the board, but thank you very much for your support.
Can I address a comment?
What comment?
All right. So, as anyone who watches the show regularly knows, I grew up on welfare. I am not from the professional managerial class, and there's no way that I could have afforded the college experience that the middle class kids from my neighborhood were able to afford without those loans. If people are coming from a more privileged background, they don't need those loans. This is a ridiculous argument. Now, if you want to argue that working people who didn't go to college should get some kind of tax break, or like it shouldn't all go to people who were fortunate enough, as I was, even though I had to do it with loans, I think it was good fortune to be able to go to college. If you're saying that something should be done for working people alongside it, I agree, but that's not an either or. It's not an argument against it. And the idea that it's primarily benefiting privileged people, that's ridiculous. If you were that privileged, you wouldn't have needed the loans.
Yeah, and I do think that it should be, like, the debt should not just be paid off in full by the government to the colleges. A lot of these private for-profit colleges should get a very tiny fraction of what they say they're owed, right? Like, they should not get the whole thing. They should get fucked in this, too. They should have to pay. If I had my way, there'd be no Ithaca College. There'd be no Vanderbilt University. I don't believe in the commodification of education. I don't believe in prestigious schools as an institution. And so fuck those colleges, fuck those schools. They should be denied a lot of the money that they say they're owed. So I think they should share in a lot of the costs, not only the taxpayers. So
yeah, and somebody here is pointing out, as Bernie used to point out correctly, whatever his sins, used to be free. Used to be free. You used to be able to get top-notch education here in New York City, which was one of the leading lights of public education, the CUNY system. They used to call City College the poor man's Harvard. Colin Powell went there.
Yep.
Sonia Sotomayor went there.
Yep.
So yeah, it wasn't like garbage education. You got top-notch education for free at one time.
Yep.
So this idea, well, being educated makes you privileged. No, man. I mean, the kind of neighborhood that I came from, that was a ladder to get out of the working class. Like and certainly the arguments we've made in regards to wages and unions, I'm not saying, well, if you're working class, well, fuck you. You need to become professional managerial class. But like, what are you arguing? You did, because when I was coming up and the country was closer to its New Deal policies and those hadn't been completely gutted, people from backgrounds like mine, that was the only way out. I mean, I'm sorry, there's nothing wrong with being an electrician or a roofer, but I wasn't cut out for that. And I always admired people who were. You know, but that just wasn't where I wanted to go. It wasn't wasn't my future. And that's not even about money. Listen, this is a myth. The people I grew up with who became electricians, who became house painters, those fucking guys are doing well. Those guys have houses. Those guys have insurance. They're doing a lot better than I am with my theater art major, believe me.
All right, let's move on to segment number 4. This is a segment we were looking forward to doing for a couple of days now. These are a couple of clips from the Adam Friedland show. For those who are not familiar with the Adam Friedland show, definitely go subscribe to them on YouTube. They also have a podcast. It's Adam Friedland and Nick Mullen, 2/3 of the old Cumtown team, now have a podcast and YouTube show, and it's quite good. It's quite funny. I think these guys are hilarious, but we're going to play a couple of clips that were not meant for laughs. They got actually kind of serious and pretty poignant, I might say, on the Israel-Palestine issue. So first, I want to play a clip from Nick because he says something that I have thought since I was literally 16 years old about the cynicism that comes with realizing who a lot of these people are who profess certain values and then betray them when it comes time to put them in action. So here's Nick Mullen.
Lately. I know. I'm having a rough time lately. I know. So that just.
What is it? It's your special. It's just like.
No, it's a lot of things. I mean, like truth be told, this stuff does like affect me. You know, you can like read it a lot. But
well, that's what I was saying. Is like you go through an entire human lifetime. For most 99.9% of people, you never see an image of a dead child.
Well, it's not even that.
I see it every day now.
It's really not even that. I mean, it's like it does. Like the reality is, it's like the situation there has appeared to me my entire life to be this, like an unjust situation. Yeah. You know, you learn all these things about. And like America's sordid history, how we came here, how we killed all of these fucking people or whatever, and slavery, and how the story from an American perspective is one of us trying to correct this long-reaching history of just how people haven't been treated fairly, right? And then there is this one example that we fund, that we pay for. That we have a relationship between these two countries.
We actively support
this thing. And you see that, when you're a teenager, or whenever you become aware of it, and you're like, oh, well, isn't this bad? And it's like, yeah, but I guess we don't actually really care about all that stuff in history. It's easy to care about it now because it's done. It's over. Right. You're going to be like, wasn't that terrible what happened to the Native Americans? Well, shucks. Yeah. We'll do a land acknowledgement. We'll have some like gay answer
we'll
like
do
that.
the haka.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then it kind of makes you like very cynical, or at least it did with me. I felt like, okay, well, this is all just kind of a lie.
I had that experience at 19.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. But it's I just became very cynical, and to see the response now to what does look like a genocide and all of these people on the streets and stuff, it's it makes me feel like a cat, like kind of a piece of shit for becoming cynical in the first place.
Yeah.
And then also like it's like, okay, well maybe something might be different. But then it also came at the cost of like this, like I said before, this is like the worst it's ever been.
Yeah, a kid dies every 10 minutes.
This is the worst it's ever been.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot there that I've felt for a long time. When I was in kindergarten, my kindergarten teacher introduced us to Martin Luther King, and we're going to play Adam's response because he hinted at when he was 19, he found a lot of this out. Yeah, exactly. But before we get to that, I learned about Martin Luther King from my kindergarten teacher, which a lot of people are very surprised about because a lot of people who I talked to who are a little bit older than me said that they never even learned about Martin Luther King in like elementary school. Like they never taught that until you got to like junior high or high school. I've heard that from a lot of people. We learned about him very young, very young.
I don't know if there was a change, but remember, I was a child in the 70s. Like Martin Luther King had been assassinated pretty recently.
Yes.
And I remember them, I must have been in like third grade, bringing us into the auditorium for Martin Luther King Day to show us a film about Martin Luther King. So they might have stopped later.
I've heard some people talk about not having learned about him. Yeah, maybe there was a gap, or maybe it just depends from district to district. I grew up in a majority-minority school district. There was a third Hispanic, a third black, a third white. And so maybe that's why they taught Martin Luther King to kids when they were very young. But I later found out that the kindergarten teacher who first exposed me to Martin Luther King was married to this hard right, like state senator or whatever the fuck he was. He was like a local politician. And this guy was just like this arch conservative, hard right Republican. And don't forget, this was when I'm talking about hard right Republican, I'm not talking about nowadays where like right wing Republican means something you're not really sure of, because a lot of the Trump supporters are to the left of a lot of Democrats on a lot of issues of war and peace and surveillance and speech. No. Early mid-2000s, to be a hard right conservative meant to be an actual fascist, meant you were against gay marriage and gay rights and for the Iraq War, for the Patriot Act. Like, it was just a nightmare politics set back then to be a Bush-supporting, a hard right Republican at that time. So when I found out who she was and who her husband was, I thought to myself exactly what Nick expressed there. Like, oh, so I guess all that bullshit about how Martin Luther King was this admirable, virtuous person, I guess you didn't really mean any of that. I guess you were just going through the motions. I guess you were just giving us a line of shit because, I don't know, it's in the curriculum or a nice picture book came out that the librarian told you to read to us. Like, you're obviously full of garbage. If you believed any of what Martin Luther King was about, there's no way you'd have shacked up with this piece of shit for your whole life. But you did. And it makes you extremely cynical. As a very young person, I felt that. And so that piece really spoke to me with what he said there.
Well, remember back then, the American ethos of it almost being inappropriate and immoral to dislike people for their political beliefs, that was still more in force. In fact, I can see today the only shit libs who will put up with me are old ones because they were raised with that ethos.
Right.
It would reflect on them badly in the system of ethics they came up with to take it out on me on a personal level that they don't like my politics. The young ones, they're out. as soon as you say something they don't like, they want to completely disassociate with you. So in defense of your teacher, that wouldn't have been as strange then as it is today.
I get that, but it strikes you when you learn who a person is versus what they told you they believed or what they told you to admire. It's like, okay, so that was performance. It hits you that way. For sure. But now let's go to Adam Friedland's response, because Adam Friedland, obviously, you can tell from his name, he is a tribesman like Russell and myself, and he apparently took advantage of the birthright program, which means that if you are Jewish, I think it's from 18 to 24, you are allowed a free trip to Israel paid for by Sheldon Adelson and his organization that set that up, the right-wing casino guy. But that program, I knew kids who took advantage of that. I never had any desire to, but Friedland did, and he talks about what he realized very quickly from taking advantage of that trip.
No, but we went to the settlements, and I was like, to that point, I was a fucking Zionist. I was there right after they disengaged from Gaza, right after they cleared out Gush Katif and like Sharon left, and I guess 2017 was the election, so it was like Or no, it's not 2017. It was 17 years ago was the election. So this was 18 years ago. It was before the election of Hamas. They pulled out, and then they took us to the West Bank. Like the last month I was there, and I realized that I was like, oh, this is the wrong side of history.
Wait, what the hell's going on with this video? It should be showing him.
Playing fine to me.
Oh, really? It was just fucking up on mine.
One makes me feel like...
Sorry.
Hamas. They pulled out, and then they took us to the West Bank. Like the last month I was there, and I realized that I was like, oh, this is the wrong side of history. And I saw, like, you look down at the Arab village that was underneath where this fucking settlement was, and you see how these people are living under constant surveillance, and they're being fucking demeaned and dehumanized. And then you see these fucking guys like building these tract houses like they live in fucking Orange County. You know, in the middle of like this political reality, which is brutal and fucking like inhumane. And I lost it. I lost it then. And I went back and I told my parents, and we got in big arguments. I was like, you know, this is what we were told was important, was to support fucking Israel so the Holocaust doesn't happen again. That's what we were told. And that's what my parents were told when they were growing up. And they knew survivors, you know, and it freaked them out. And I understand why there's like this like narrative in the Jewish community, but like that doesn't make Jews more safe. You know, it's a failure of a project. And then now we're seeing like this fucking bloody reality. And
yeah, but the response is crazy because
the response is insane.
It's like the idea. Like
seeing Joe Biden saying he doesn't believe the death tolls, that really broke me.
We've played a video about a week and a half ago of that Jewish woman, the young Jewish woman, talking about how she waited too long before she asked herself, "Hey, what about the other side of the Zionist story?" Right? What about the Palestinian people? Right? She hadn't asked herself that question for a long time. And it's interesting to see him talk about having picked up on it immediately. Just as soon as you get there, as soon as you get to the West Bank, you see, as he put it, these Orange County like McMansion developments on what is clearly occupied land, and then you see the other side of it, the other side of how the people there are made to live under occupation. It struck him instantly that this was unjust, and he went home. He tells his parents, "We're on the wrong side of history." Imagine hearing that. Imagine being a parent, sending your kid on the birthright trip with such pride, and he comes back and he's like, "Yeah, actually, we are the baddies." I have to tell you.
Are we the baddies?
Yeah, there you go. Russell's good on that soundboard. He finds those cues so quick. It takes me forever to find the cue.
It just happened to be right there.
Boom.
So what are you saying? Because when the Americans come, the Israeli girls are instructed to fuck them at a lot so that they want to move to Israel. They didn't fuck you when you were there. Right. I swear I've been told this.
No,
when you go on that birthright trip, you get a lot of nookie.
Right, but well, yeah. There's. I've heard it said too that when you go there,
put out that honey pot.
Exactly.
They wanna reel you in. Yeah, well, I sometimes when I've talked about my experience growing up, I've qualified it by saying I haven't really been around the community since then, so it might be different, but apparently not, because what he's describing, what that girl described in that video, that woman described in that video, that's exactly my experience. They raise you to see Zionism and Judaism as literally the same. I didn't even learn much about the Bible, just some of the kind of stories the kids would like, Noah's Ark, things like that. But I didn't learn the Bible. I didn't learn the Torah. I didn't learn anything about Jewish law or philosophy, which actually I was a weird, precocious kid. I would have enjoyed that. I might have had a completely different attitude about Judaism if they had actually taught Judaism. But it rubbed me the wrong way, even as a child. It was so clear that they just wanted to kind of pressure you into being this Israel supporter and into wanting to base your entire life and your tastes and your mind around this Israel project. Apparently that hasn't changed. And this is part of why this war is so disastrous for Israel. because it is making the entire world have Friedland's experience of seeing what's going on over there. Nobody saw it. Nobody looked into it. It was invisible. It was out of sight, out of mind. Now people are seeing it, and there's just no way, just like his experience was, there's no way to justify it. There's no way to not see that, very much like South Africa, we have supported an apartheid state for political convenience that morally we never had any business supporting.
Exactly. All right, let's move on here. We got Jules Elisard 88. Greetings from Denmark. Thanks for the 50 Denmark dollars there. You keep mentioning someone who predicted Biden being worse than Trump. Name, please. Great show, by the way. Well, thank you, Jules. Appreciate that. Yes, that's our friend Anish Shivani. I mean, there were several people who actually predicted that.
Because I've seen that in the comments. Okay. Where people are like, they can't figure out how to Google him.
Oh, yeah, definitely Google him. I keep telling him to start a Substack because he would do extremely well on Substack.
He would.
But he's a great writer. Anish Shivani is his name. He does our election night coverage with us, and we've had him on the show a bunch of times, and we'll have him on again soon, especially in light of all this. But terrific writer, great guy, great friend of our show, one of the oldest friends of our show. And so definitely check him out. OG Anish, absolutely. And, okay, we have to put this up one more time, okay? Jeff Overturf, is this channel censoring keywords? No. We don't censor comments or chats. We say that all the time. YouTube does it. It's weird about that. Sometimes it's just technical glitches. Like sometimes people try to send a super chat and they can't or whatever. But no, we don't do that. Listen, I can barely run the fucking show today. I'm running the show off a fucking tin cup and a piece of wire. I would not be able to do that today if I wanted to. But no, we do not censor comments or chats. Jeff,
or sometimes if you try to send a link, they read it as spam. And they'll
links
like
are
block
always
you completely
tough to
for a while.
Yeah, if you put a link, that's why we're always a little nervous to put links in the chat because they might block us from chatting because the AI just sometimes assumes that a link is spam. So that could be it. But no, we do not do it.
No, the only exception is if you are a troll to the point that it's disruptive. Or if you're, slurring
or threatening, obviously those are the rules.
Threatening. If you're deeply personally insulting, Keaton doesn't really care. I will block you for that if I see it. Keaton's like, fucking whatever, man.
Whatever.
Mom's basement motherfucker. And he's right, but I'll block you for that.
Russell will block you for that. Scott Johnson.
He's a bigger man.
Thanks for the $10. Here, treat yourself to a new internet, Keaton. Bless you, Gesundheit. Thank you, Scott. The internet is back up and working, but I'm still on hotspot because in order for me to change now, it would be disruptive to the stream. So the internet's working, which means we should be good to go on the Jimmy Dore Show today at 4 o'clock, by the way. Russell and I are co-hosting the Jimmy Dore Show today at 4 p.m. So tune in live, YouTube, Rumble, and Rockfin. You know the deal. McDougal, thanks for the $5. No, y'all missed it, but thought Newsom would be way more likable. He doesn't have it like Obama or Trump. Sad.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. They talk about him that way just because they're so bereft of anybody who has that charisma. He's the closest they have.
Right.
He's like the facts of a Xerox of an email of a copy of Clinton or Obama.
Exactly. But man, what a bust that was, man. They were pumping that debate. They were hyping that debate for months. It came and went. Nobody but fucking David Pakman knew or cared. Yeah.
Well, people were like, I mean, probably look with DeSantis, I got to be an honest broker. Yeah. I mean, fair enough. If you feel like he's not going to be the nominee.
Yes, I'd say that's fair enough at this point.
Fair. My premise is based on deep state shenanigans. So we'll see. That's unpredictable. But with the Democratic primaries are a little more predictable. It's still like, really? They're going to just go with Biden? So Newsom could wind up in there.
Well, that's one thing. Newsom was very emphatic at the debate last night. I did see one clip where he's saying Biden will be our nominee, but he has to say that. He has to say that at this point.
Right.
Yeah. Because otherwise he looks like he's angling.
Yeah. I mean, he's like Bill Clinton in that he's slimy the way Bill Clinton was, but he certainly doesn't have his skill set.
Yes, I would agree. Fact from Rock1234: Kissinger had Nixon commence the carpet bombing of Cambodia, using an executive order on advice from a young Antonin Scalia.
Yeah, that's
Thank you, Rock1234. Henry DeShazo. Hi, fellas. I'm a new fan. Thank you, Henry. Thanks for seeing you on Jimmy's show. Thank you. Aren't one of you going to host soon? Looking forward to it. Keep up the great work. Yes, Russell is hosting the Jimmy Dore Show second week of January. Russell will be in studio in LA, which is 5 weeks. Man, that's coming up.
Yeah.
Coming up.
They had me at In-N-Out Burgers.
Yes, In-N-Out Burgers, Jack in the Box. You like Jack in the Box?
Well, you can get Jack's here. But In-N-Out Burgers, you can't get outside of that region. I know.
What are you talking about? You can get Jack's here. They sell them like frozen?
No, they have Jack's. Aren't there still Jack's in New York?
Jack in a Box. No, there's no Jack in a Box in New York.
Yeah, but they call it Jack's.
No, there's no Jack in a Box in New York.
Not anymore?
No, there hasn't been for
my
decades.
friends used to go there for the Taco
and
Tuesday. Yeah.
I love Jack in the Box tacos. I think Jack in the Box tacos are amazing. They're like Mexican wontons. You know, there's like a pocket of grease that holds everything in the taco, and then there's a hard shell at the bottom. So it really is like a dumpling or a wonton. Oh, they are so good.
No,
I love Jack in the Box.
I know Negi. I'm gonna have to ask Negi. Negi's one of his
There's
areas
definitely
of
no Jack in the Box on the East Coast
He will
anymore.
know if there's Jack's in New York.
I know there's no Jack in the Box on the East Coast anymore. That was years ago because my father used to like Jack in the Box because he grew up in the Bronx. So there used to be on the East Coast. They used to have them here, but not anymore. Not anymore. Because I remember that's like a West Coast. Like when I'm out in LA, that's a thing.
I mean, okay, I'm not. I was never a Jack's person. With it, I would go with them to the Taco Tuesday, but just for the Thai stick. But the In-N-Out burger is the best hamburger I've ever had on planet Earth, and I haven't been in LA. Wow, man, it's a long time. Well, I've been in last time I was in California was 2009, so that would be like the last time I had an In-N-Out burger.
All right, yeah, I was last in LA 2017. And we hope to get back out there soon. Plenty in the working class have student debt, says John M. in Minnesota. Thank you.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
Exactly.
Yes, you're correct.
Exactly.
Thank you. And John is proof of that. If he didn't have student debt, he would send us more to $199. Haha, just kidding, John. Just kidding. Grateful to everybody. Was referring to unmute request at start of the show. Oh, okay. So like I should be able to unmute him? Well, if he voluntarily mutes, then I can't unmute him. And today we had to start the show a little differently because of my internet issues. Russell had to run point on the countdown and everything. But thank you, Judy. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I trust Virtuoso on this. What does Virtuoso have to say? Because Virtuoso would know if there's Jack's.
There's no Jack in the Box in New York City.
Yeah, Carl Jr.
What are you, crazy?
He says.
There's no Jack in the Box in New York City.
Not called Jack in the Box, called Jack's.
Maybe they call them Jack's now that they changed the signs or whatever. I don't know, like Dunkin'
definitely
Donuts
no Jack in the Box, but it's the same business. They start calling it Jack's.
Okay. I still don't think that there's there.
All right, Negi would know. I'm gonna ask Negi.
All right. Rumble rant. You should have played that meme of Jordan Peterson saying the rat goes like this. Yeah, we could have gotten some stuff there. Thank you. Stop sterilizing your cats and dogs, Australia. Practicing eugenics on cats and dogs is getting rid of your vermin control. Let your cats and dogs screw, breed, and run wild. No rats or mice. Do you know about that?
Those those koalas have chlamydia, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. I'm not. It's not even a joke. No. They have like a mass epidemic of chlamydia among the koalas.
Wow.
Even Australia.
Right.
Even the koalas.
Have
STDs.
Wow. My Building 7 buddy shared this from WikiLeaks. The illegal we do immediately. The unconstitutional takes a little longer. Yeah, my favorite. The issues are too important to be left for the voters. Yes. Thank you for that very much. All right, we'll take some more super chats in a few minutes. Okay, folks, so at the top of the show, Russell answered some of his haters on the Elon Musk Tesla situation. This is a segment that I really thought we should do because we took the piss out of Javier Milei, the president-elect of Argentina, who actually takes office in 9 days. And apparently, he's got this crop.
He's a poet warrior.
Yeah, apparently he's got this crop of online defenders who insist that, no, he's not just a crazy fuck puppet for the New World Order. He is this renegade anti-establishment crusader. Well, he took a trip to the United States, which the AP has some reporting on. Argentina's president-elect tells top Biden officials that he's committed to freedom. By the way, freedom in South America speak, as it relates to our leaders, means capitalism. That's what it is.
Right,
Freedom equals capitalism, right? That's what he means there. Argentina's president-elect Javier Milei met Tuesday with senior Biden administration officials at the White House in his first international trip since winning a presidential runoff earlier this month. The right-wing Milei had a, quote, positive meeting with White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, the president-elect's office said in a statement. The visit by Argentina's incoming leader occurred while President Joe Biden was away from Washington at a memorial for former First Lady Rosalind Carter in Georgia and then traveling to Colorado. The statement from Milei's office said he had expressed his views on the international geopolitical agenda aligned with the West and his commitment to the values of freedom. That means pro-capitalism, pro-American corporations. It means pro-U.S. dollar, pro-Ukraine, and pro-Israel. That's what that means. It added that Sullivan, speaking on behalf of the administration, conveyed the willingness of the United States to cooperate in the transition of the incoming Argentine government, given the challenging political, economic, and social circumstances that the country is facing. The White House issued a statement saying that Sullivan and Milei discussed economic issues and shared priorities such as investing in technology and clean energy, advocating for human rights, and standing up for democracies around the world. Also attending the meeting on behalf of the Biden administration were Juan Gonzalez, the National Security Council's Senior Director for the Western Hemisphere, Brian Nichols, U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for the Western Hemisphere Affairs, and U.S. Ambassador to Argentina, Mark Stanley, according to the statement by Milei's office. Milei made other stops in Washington. On Tuesday, he posted on Instagram a picture of himself and aides at the Lincoln Memorial. Here he is at the Lincoln Memorial, selfie here. Here he is with Bill Clinton. This was in New York, so he didn't come straight to Washington when he came to America. He came to New York City, had lunch with Bill Clinton, anti-establishment renegade that he is. And then here he is with the actual president, Jake Sullivan. That's Jake Sullivan standing immediately to his right, our left. That's the guy who actually runs foreign policy. It's Tony Blinken and Jake Sullivan. So, look, this is a lesson that I think, people are now learning very, very quickly. Fucking lunatic doesn't mean anti-establishment. Sometimes you can be a fucking lunatic and be a tool of establishment power.
And there's a long history of that in South America.
There is a long history of that. As a matter of fact, Javier Milei is the exact kind of South American leader that the United States would install if they lost an election to the socialist. Usually what happens in South America, when a socialist wins an election, we declare that election illegitimate, we overthrow the elected left-wing government, and we install someone like a Javier Milei type. So not only is this guy not anti-establishment, again, pro-US dollar, pro-Israel, pro-Ukraine, this guy is exactly the kind of leader who we would put in power if it meant overthrowing a leftist government that was going to protect the resources of their own country from Western power. So I hope that puts the whole cult of Milei to rest a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, you're rooting for Pinochet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, look. Well, this is where, and I think often they make the argument dishonestly, but this is where a lot of people who will be critical of those who are anti-woke have a point, because it's so easy to get them to jump on any bandwagon. If
exactly,
you go, yes, we've had enough of this cultural degradation, and they'll just get behind anyone without really looking under the hood who talks that language, who uses that vocabulary, without checking out.
They just assume that any eccentric personality that the establishment has it in for, is on their side. And in this case, the establishment doesn't even have it in for them. They like him for all this talk, because look, this guy calls climate change a socialist lie, right? He is a blatant climate denier. Now, if Bill Clinton and Joe Biden really took climate change seriously. You think they would be palling around with this guy? No, they would be denouncing his government. They would be denouncing him as this crazed, extremist, Trump-like threat to the social fabric and democracy, but they don't care about any of that shit. All they care about is that you will play ball with the United States. So they will empower, and look, there's a long history of this. This is not the first time this happened, obviously. Long history of this. We will empower the most maniacal right-wing fanatics in South America if it means keeping out socialists like Evo Morales, who will protect their own resources, i.e. lithium, right? We cooed that government to get access to their lithium mines because the left-wing leader wasn't going to give it to the United States for nothing.
Well, and there's a big part of, as a lot of people are learning, there's a big part of the history of the Muslim world. Because not only the Zionists, but the United States propaganda machine will try to convey to you the idea that that region is hopelessly medieval in its theocratic inclinations. And that didn't happen naturally. The Arab world coming out of World War II and the collapse of the British Empire was full of left-wing socialist Arab projects. We propped up religious, theocratic leaders in order to make sure that those leaders did not come to power and hold power in that region. That's how they wound up like that. We manipulated them to be like that. South America, they do the same thing. They give you the impression that South America is just seething with these strong men. No, it's not. We prop up these strong men. And I will say, in a world that is de-dollarizing, I'm sure he didn't hurt his chances of coming to a deal with the West any, or at least with the United States, by proposing getting rid of their peso and going to the dollar in Argentina, using the dollar as their currency.
Exactly. Well, that's what it's all about. Like I said, you could be as crazy, as right-wing, as xenophobic, as homophobic. They don't give a shit. Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Jake Sullivan, Anthony Blinken, they don't give a goddamn about Western values or freedom or any of that shit.
Right.
They want puppets. Right. Where they need
I just got off the phone with him. He'll play ball. We could do business with this guy.
Exactly. And that's all that matters. That's why they're willing to shake hands with him and smile for selfies with him in public, because in their mind, they would much, much, much rather a guy like him than a guy like Evo Morales or, Chavez or any of those guys. The further right doesn't matter to them. Doesn't matter. All right, here we go. Franklin Warsham, thanks for the $4.99. Dear Vic, this is in response to our previous chatter. How do you go from working class to PMC without affordable loans? How do children of the working class get to PMC? I suspect you are not working class. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. And also, the people who need the loan forgiveness are not are almost by definition people for whom the degree wasn't exactly worth it, right? Because the whole point is that the loans are supposed to be structured where, you'll take out these loans and the interest is a bitch, but you'll be making plenty of money where you can pay for them. I mean, it's brutal. I mean, the cost of housing right now, the cost of food right now. I mean, you got to make a fucking ton of money to live a working class lifestyle, much less a middle class lifestyle. There is no middle class anymore. I mean, it's just unbelievably expensive. And one of the things we're going to cover on Sunday, we don't want to spend too much time on this because we still have 3 more segments, but New York City now imposing this $15 toll to drive through Midtown. They're going to start tolling off certain sections of neighborhoods.
Right.
That's a nightmare waiting to happen, an absolute nightmare.
Well, I can tell you, actually, when stories like that come up, I really, obviously for other reasons too, but, they've been talking about this for a while. And my best friend Joey, who passed on, he was a contractor and he was a union painter. And things like that, when they came up, would really, really drive him into a fit, because who needs to come in and out of the city with transportation? People who are bringing tools. Right. They can't take public transportation.
Yep.
So, they don't even think about all of these people who have no choice but to bring a van into the city, and you're killing those people, and they don't even give it any thought. Like, well, maybe we should have a registration for contractors, for people who have to come into the city to work with tools like that. They can't take. They don't even care about these.
No,
people.
they pass that cost on to the contractor. The contractor passes that cost on to the customer, and everything else gets more expensive. What about these delivery trucks that deliver your vegetables and meats to grocery stores and bodegas? If they got to pay, that means the price of food is going to keep going up.
I mean, that informs a lot of my politics. It was my relationship with him and seeing what he went through, because he was like a case study in how everything kept getting worse for working people, even people who were in the union. You know, I remember towards the last few years of his life, the city fired the union painters and hired independent contractors, and then offered the union painters their jobs back at that rate.
Wow. All right, let's keep going. Got a couple more Rumble rants that I copied and pasted in there. Christian Fortin, thanks for the $5. In Senegal, quite a lineup next week. When are you bringing Tusker back? She's a brain candy. Well, Tusker's the next super chat down the list. We can have Tusker call in. Tusker's always welcome to sit in.
I think she's working today, but she informs me.
She hit us up with $10 though. Thanks, Tusker.
Thank you, Tusker. She informs me she does not agree with my assessment of In-N-Out Burger as the best burger.
Oh, no?
No, she does not.
I don't remember it well enough. I remember going and liking it. I'm pro In-N-Out Burger. But it didn't make as big an impression on me as it did you, I guess. Yes, it's George, the Scheckelmeister from Hi-Fi. Yeah. Thank you, George. Appreciate that.
Better be careful watching this show. From what I've seen, they might come for you, George.
Yeah. George is one of the cool ones, as they say. All right, folks. This was quite the piece of video here. Tucker Carlson appeared on Roseanne Barr's podcast, and they were talking about the sentencing of the January 6th protesters. And Tucker talked about the impulse that he has not to want to lock people in jail unless absolutely necessary. And then he brings up Julian Assange and has some pretty harsh words for Trump's Secretary of State, second Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. This is spit and fire right here. These are what we call fighting words in the business. Here's Tucker.
About them, like what does it say about them? Like, I would never put someone in prison, even who committed like a real crime, unless I really had to. I don't want to put people in prison.
Yeah.
I guess I'm the liberal.
Yeah.
I've visited, I was in a prison last week. They're very depressing. I saw Julian Assange in London.
I wanted to ask you.
Wouldn't put people in prison,
no,
except for a very good reason. And they
talk about the
put
truth.
him in prison.
Talk about the truth being illegal. Look at he's paid for it with dozens of people.
Well, Assange has never been accused of lying, or of fraud, or of making money in some criminal scheme. Assange has been accused of telling the truth. Period.
Yeah.
And they are torturing him to death in front of all of us. No one's doing anything about it. And that Mike Pompeo is a very, very sinister person.
Isn't he?
The worst.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought that, and I've told Trump that. Never should have allowed him to run CIA or state. But Mike Pompeo tried to have him murdered. And that's a criminal act. He was not even charged with a crime in the United States. And Mike Pompeo was CIA director. This came out. Pompeo didn't deny it.
I never heard this.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely.
I saw it.
Yep, that did come out. That was a Yahoo News investigation, actually. That came out in September of 2021. That Pompeo wanted Julian Assange kidnapped, poisoned, and obviously killed. And that was out there in the mainstream media. Like, that was widely reported. How much oxygen did that get? How much oxygen did that get? Yeah, I mean, if that's true, that's obviously a guy who belongs in jail. Of course, it doesn't matter when you pick the right target. Yeah, exactly. Let's let him finish it.
Yeah.
You want me to play the rest? Yeah, we'll play the rest.
Yeah, finish it up.
Oh, my God.
He tried to have Julian Assange murdered, poisoned in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. And that's a fact, okay? Wow. And it's been established and, okay?
Yes.
Why is Mike Pompeo not in prison? You're not allowed to murder people extrajudicially, especially when they haven't even been charged in the United States, which he had not been.
Wow.
So Mike Pompeo runs around to these stupid Republican donor events, and you're like a world expert on whatever, and he's a criminal. And he should be in jail. Like, if Julian Assange is in jail, how about the attempted murderer, right?
Good point. Good point. Russell, what were you going to say?
Yeah, did we include Misty's tweet as part of this?
No, but that's where I saw this video.
All right, so Misty, our friend Misty,
our friend Misty Winston over at TNT Radio,
over at TNT Radio, she made the point, and this is what's so frustrating about a lot of the people in this space, a lot of the kind of people who are theoretically on the right, who we might agree with about certain things. Then you kind of look under the hood. Okay, so Roseanne is a fanatical Trump supporter. I wouldn't say that necessarily about Tucker, but she's a fanatical Trump supporter. So who was president when Assange got arrested, Roseanne? That's what Misty pointed out. This was under your hero, Donald Trump. So you want to be consistent. Why don't you disown Trump over that? I mean, it's great that they're saying these things to an audience that wouldn't listen to it coming from, say, Cornel West or, somebody in that lane.
And Trump, by the way, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Trump covered Mike Pompeo's ass when that reporting came out. This was after he was already out of office. This was 2021. But he said, no, it's not true. It didn't happen. Right. And Trump had the chance to pardon Julian Assange, which Tucker urged him to do on the air very famously. And he didn't do it. Right.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, why can't we just understand the guy's a big fucking pussy?
Well, that's it. And we talk about this, speaking of Cornel West, we've talked about this on our side of the political spectrum. Don't follow leaders, man. Don't worship heroes. Don't put people on pedestals. And that applies to these people too. If Trump's behavior is inconsistent with your ethics, call him out, which I think Tucker's a lot more prepared to do than she is.
He is. Well, that's why he said, I told Trump it was a huge mistake, hiring him in the first place, CIA and obviously Secretary of State. Tucker did say in this interview that he is now an active Trump supporter, which he claims to have never been in the past, which I understand. I mean, you always got the sense he was going to vote for Trump over Biden, right? But he's not like Hannity, not like just a naked partisan, right? But he says that, part of the reason he's backing Trump is because of the deep state's sort of effort to put him in jail, sort of, keeping with the theme of the carceral state and, an overly empowered deep state, permanent state willing to go after its political opponents, the weaponization of the federal government, as the committee named itself. So, he is now calling himself an active Trump supporter, but, at least he is willing to call out Mike Pompeo and speak in very, very strong terms about people who are, on the Republican side of the aisle. Roseanne didn't seem she knew much about this. What did he say? He's paid with dozens of years, which I guess, not quite dozens, but, whatever.
Right.
He's had a target on his back for over a dozen years now, as it is. WikiLeaks formed, was it 2006? So, yeah, he has given quite a bit of his life. And this was really the first time that Tucker spoke out about his meeting with Julian Assange at Belmarsh. There were those photos that were taken with him and Julian's wife. And so I would love to hear more about this in the coming days and weeks, but real strong words there from Tucker Carlson for Mike Pompeo. Anything?
Yeah. Roseanne, okay, fair enough. She's Roseanne. But it's just symptomatic of a broader thing that we've seen since the war erupted in Palestine. That a lot of the people that we've nominally allied with, and a lot of people have warned of that, and I never doubted them. I just felt like the enemy of my enemy. You just don't really have a choice when you're trying to build a free speech coalition. Like, was the danger always you empower these people, you're just going to face different censorship? Sure, and you're seeing that play out now with people like Douglas Murray, who was so brilliant in that debate with Taibbi on behalf of free speech, just virulently trying to shut down free speech in regards to that conflict.
Yeah, it makes it very complicated because, you want to, what Jimmy always brings up, the Frederick Douglass quote, I will partner with anyone to do good, no one to do bad. Right. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
But then do you empower them to do their own form of bad by allying with them?
That's the other side of it, right? That's what complicates it, is that when you partner with someone, you are almost inevitably helping them build a certain power for themselves. And then if they will turn around once they have that power and weaponize that against people who they disagree with because they were never fighting for principle,
right,
but only for their own power.
Right.
Yeah, it becomes complicated. It becomes a very complicated question. In Tucker's case, I think it's good that he has stayed consistent on the Julian Assange issue, which he credits actually Jimmy Dore for persuading him to change his mind on that issue. So, again, it's complicated. It's tough because even like a big theme of this conversation with Roseanne was, and he says it at the beginning of that piece of video that we just showed. He says, I don't want to put people in prison. He says, I'm the liberal. When have you last heard Tucker Carlson refer to himself as a liberal? He's never referred himself himself that way, as far as I know. So he's talking about, this sort of anti-incarceration mindset, right? This tendency, as I have, and this is why I always thought that the January 6th people were overcharged and oversentenced. I think, and like I said, I can't go all the way to prison abolition, but one of the things I've always respected about the abolitionists is that they set a goal in the future. Hey, can we get to a world without prison, right? And that's a great vision to have. It's a great aspiration, and it's a great way to sort of rewire your brain into thinking, hey, shouldn't locking a person in a cage be an absolute last resort that we reserve for absolute emergency situations to protect the public from violent criminals? Should we be just routinely locking people up, even if it's for a weekend for unpaid traffic tickets or whatever? Like, isn't that a drastic move? And the fact that Tucker started that by expressing that is encouraging. At the same time, a bunch of looters kick in the window at a Nike store in Chicago, and he's going up there talking about how we need to clean up the streets and lock all these people up. So it creates a very complicated dynamic.
It does, and it's like the story of the serpent and the frog, right? The frog carries the serpent across the river, and you always have to wonder when you get in bed with these people, are they going to bite you as soon as you get them to the opposite shore?
Exactly. Yeah. No, it is. It's tough. Like, I don't have an answer. There's no easy answer, as this recent episode has proven now. All right, we got two more segments that we want to play. This will probably be split up into 3 clips, but let's take some Rumble Rants and Super Chats. Thanks, folks, for being here this morning. For those who came in late, announcements for the week. We got Matt Taibbi joining us on Sunday night, 7 p.m. We have Katie Halper joining us Wednesday night at 8 p.m. On December 6th. So a big week for the show. 2 great guests who we're looking forward to welcoming into the Do Dissidents orbit. Matt Taibbi's been on the show once before, so he's coming back. Katie will be here for the first time, and we will be back on the internet at 4 o'clock today. We'll be co-hosting the Jimmy Dore Show this afternoon. Will you please, says a Rumble Ranter. Again, we don't have Jake today, so I can't put your names up because that's a little more complicated, but we'll get to all the Rumble Rants, so thank you. Will you please interview Alan Coolidge from studentloanjustice.org about the student loan crisis? He is the #1 expert on this and will be a quintessential interview for Do Dissidents. Yeah, I will look into that. I would love to do an interview on student loan debt. That would be great. So thank you. I will definitely pursue that. Jack in the Box has 600 locations around the country, none in New York. There you go. That's from Winnetou Livre.
All right.
I believe,
well, that's the final word.
I can't remember if Winnetou Livre is in Washington or in Connecticut. One of those two. But thank you, Winnetou Livre.
That's the final word. I'll accept that.
That's the word. That's the word. Oh, trust me. If they were in New York, I'd be going there.
Yeah.
I'd weigh 300 pounds if Jack in the Box were in New York. Russell.
I'm arguing with a super fan.
Yeah. Russell, when you go to California, don't forget a Wiener Schnitzel chili cheese dog. It tastes like a heart attack, but it's worth it. Where did you get those?
That's not my kind of thing. Something else I like out there? El Pollo Loco. I like those.
Yeah.
That's something else you can't get here.
Yo, there is an amazing taco place in Glendale. I mean, there's amazing taco places all over. The Mexican food is great in LA. But when my cousin lived in Glendale, he took me to one. It's incredible. It's just this outdoor taco stand, but they have buckets of self-serve cucumbers, like pickled jalapenos, and something else, like in barrels. So you can just like put as many of you want as you want on the tacos, and those peppers, those jalapenos are dynamite. They are killer. So that's a good place to hit up too. I don't know how far you're going to be from there. But yeah, there's a lot of great food out in LA.
I'm gonna hook up with some of our friends there. I won't have a car. They're gonna have to come get me. So CJ, you hear that? You're gonna have to come get me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna reach out to Buck. Have some lunch with Buck
Beautiful.
while I'm out there.
Yeah, it should be fun. Should be fun. A lot of friends of the show out there for sure. Sandra Day O'Connor has died at age 93. Any thoughts? I assume she was dead already. That's one of those people you just assumed died. She wasn't
alive.
dead. She was still, yeah. My thoughts is, she was alive until
I liked her
today.
working behind the green door.
Whoa, that was a close call. I almost forgot not to do that. We still good? Is our stream still good?
Yeah, we're good.
No,
Don't do whatever you just did, though, because you did
the
freeze
phone,
for a second.
I froze for a second? Are we back?
Yeah, you did.
Are we good? Audience, are we good?
You're here.
All right.
Yeah,
Chat,
you can hear
we're
me,
good?
right?
I can
You missed my porn joke, but we can keep going.
Are we good? Here we go. All right.
Maybe
I just
that's
want to
for
make
the
sure
best.
we're good. Hey, chat. Give me a proof of life. Am I still coming through? No, I hit the phone because I forgot. The phone is what's giving us the show today, so I can't move the phone. I would smack my hand into it, almost sabotage the stream. All right, beautiful, beautiful. All right, here we go. I will make a note not to do that again. It's my ADD. Just forgot. Oh yeah, the phone. Don't fuck with the phone today.
Well, we didn't even have to be late. Like, he was so uptight about doing this with the hotspot that as soon as he saw a little blue, he decided right before to try to switch it over.
That's right. My router turned blue, so I'm like,
the
that
internet's would not
back.
have been my call if I were you. I would have been like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Fuck it, go.
Yeah, that's probably moving forward, that'll be our approach, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Fuck it.
Move fast and break things, my friend.
Move fast, break things. That's exactly right. Yeah, I just made a quick decision to try and go back on the Wi-Fi, but it didn't work out. All right. Okay. 007 Angelo, thanks for the $5. The boomers that went to college for free shut the doors behind them. Yes. Buried everyone in debt to create a permanent indentured servant underclass. Shake my fucking head. Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly what happened. Yep. John
went to free college, then bought a fucking house for $26.
Right. And then told the millennials that it was their avocado toast habit that was the reason why they couldn't pay off debt and buy a house, right?
They're into that avocado toast because it's all they have.
Right, that's the only pleasure
you can't get
have in
any
life.
Meaningful symbols of status, you're going to go for empty ones.
Right, you go for the avocado toast. Well, that's true. That's why a lot of poor people stay poor, because if you realize that you can't ever save enough money to ascend the social and economic ladder, then the best you could do is enjoy the rung of the ladder that you're at. Right. Which means when you get some money in,
so you
spend it on nice things. Right, exactly. You blow it because there's no point in trying to save it because you can't. Exactly. Sorry, John. I'll give more when I start getting a paycheck again. I was just kidding, John. I was only playing with you. We kid around. Dude,
we're joking.
Thank you. Yes, we're joking. We're only joking. All right? You're making me want to give you the $2 back now. You're making me sad. We were only joking. Sam D, thanks for the $4 super sticker. Appreciate that very much. Okay, beautiful. Here we go. Malay did what Maloney of Italy did, got popular by saying a few anti-woke things, then showed who they really were after the elections. Same is going to happen in Canada next year. T-Bone. Thank you, T-Bone. That's a really good point. I haven't been following Maloney's reign in office enough to know that, for an example, but I take your word for it. But yes, I could see how that would be a similar type thing. So thanks very much. We did a segment on Maloney when she
if they start
won.
running a Soylent Green-esque euthanasia program up there, that'll be something.
That will be.
That'll be an accomplishment. Who knows? Maybe they ramp it up though. I mean, that's what's crazy about that project. It's like a project of liberal beneficence, but it can also easily adopt to a project of right-wing eugenics. It's just a question of who's running it.
Exactly. All right, we're going to go out of order here with a super chat because not only do we owe this guy a big thank you, but we also owe you an apology. Can't stand ya. At the time you gave us that donation last time, we thought it was like $1 or $2 because we didn't understand the exchange rate, but that's actually like a $93 donation. And so we owe you actually a singing bowl from last time. So why don't we give him a couple singing bowls from this time?
Well, we all
thank you. That's very
cowbell,
kind
right?
of you.
That's a cowbell.
What's that?
That's like a quadruple cowbell.
Okay. If you still have the cowbell.
Still have it.
All right. Beautiful. See how you can still hear it, but not as obnoxiously anymore because of Russell's directional microphone.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was going to work. So that works.
Yeah, it was low volume, but it works. It's probably for the best that it's low volume because we get the point.
I would imagine. Love
the show. See you on JD. Thank you. Can't stand you.
Yeah, we have a no clap policy, so clearly we can't have a loud cowbell.
Yes.
I could have used a little more cowbell.
But that's a very generous donation, and thank you for the previous one as well. That's very nice of you. All right, McDougal, thanks for the $10. To the haters and the losers, Russell.
I love the girl with the dragon tattoo, by the way.
Yeah, girl with the dragon tattoo is good stuff. Tesla's king. Only issue is Elon alienated his Dem customer base, and conservatives prefer gas pickups. Also, the AF crowd has questions for Malay and isn't sold. The AF
I mean,
crowd.
that's
What's
another
the AF
element
crowd?
of it.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that is either. As fuck.
Yeah, the as fuck caucus.
So, yeah, no, I mean, I didn't get into that this time because that was part of the crux of my argument last time. The libs buy Teslas, man. You made Teslas toxic now because you made Elon toxic. So, I think their last quarter showed that they're slipping, and it's partly because of that. Yes, you just said it yourself. Conservatives are not going to start buying fucking Teslas because it's toxic with them too. You'd have to do such a total major rebranding, which honestly, that might be his best move. To try to fucking make Tesla a fuck you to the establishment. That would be the best thing, to try to just shift his whole customer base. But I think it's a little late for that.
All righty. We will get to some more super chats in a few minutes. We'll take a couple more now since we have a lot. Did he play for Argentina in the 1986 World Cup? Malay, did he play for? I don't know. I don't believe so. I think that we would know that about him.
I mean, honestly, in those pictures, I kept thinking, like, put a tan leather on this guy, and he looks like a background extra from a 70s crime movie.
He does. He has that exploitation movie look to him. Great seeing you guys on Jimmy Dore. Thanks, Pete Sweet. JD was the person that changed Tucker's views. Yep, I pointed that out in the segment on Assange. This is why guests from the left should be on Fox News. I agree.
Exactly.
100%. 100%. Will S., thanks for the $5. Stories coming up in the past few hours that Israel knew about the Hamas plan. Shh, we're getting to that later. For October 7th, based on a New York Times story. Yes, we are going to be covering that in just a few minutes, actually. Kuznetsky Bassane, free Assange, thoughts and prayers to Russell's immune system. Yes, thoughts and prayers to Russell's immune system, indeed.
This is the first time I have had a cold in about 2.5 years, so.
There you go.
I was about due.
He was fine at Thanksgiving. Maybe he caught something on the bus ride back. Maybe close quarters for 3 hours.
I mean, with the specimen of humanity I got seated next to on the way up there,
maybe he gave you
certainly
something.
possible.
Certainly possible.
I'm gonna fucking wind up with the herp.
All right, guys.
So somebody here, I just want to address this. Yeah. I mean, you're talking. It is very courageous to take a man all the way in your throat, the way he did with Netanyahu. So if that's what you mean,
yeah,
he did show quite a lot of courage. I didn't think nobody's deep throated like that since Linda Lovelace.
Yeah, exactly. We did a segment on that. Maybe go watch it because look, that's the story of Elon. We don't have to get into this again. I think we covered it pretty well in the segment. But impulse, ego, nothing really there. No depth of principle, no depth of thought, no depth of knowledge, no real curiosity. It fires off a tweet on an impulse, gets in trouble, goes to Israel to apologize, comes back, tells the advertisers to go fuck themselves if they, are not happy. I mean, at a certain point, you throw your hands up and say, okay, this is just clearly this out of control person with no real through line of logic or principle or morals or anything. Egg 64, rest in piss, Kissinger.
But you are not serious people.
Yeah, there you go. Can't tell if proto-Cheney or proto-Satan. Well, they're finding out somewhere in the cosmos right now. All right, let's do this one. This was news yesterday. MSNBC cancels far-left host Mehdi Hasan's program. So forgive the forgive the editorial slant of this article. I use Fox News because they pointed out certain things that some of the other articles didn't. But yes, Mehdi Hasan's MSNBC channel, MSNBC show has been canceled at the network. MSNBC has canceled far-left host Mehdi Hasan's Sunday night program as part of a major weekend programming shift. Hasan will lose his weekend show as well as his show on the Peacock streaming service, but will stay at the network as an on-camera analyst and fill-in host. So they didn't fire him. They didn't part ways with him, but they took his show away. Ayman Mohyeldin will take over Hasan's one-hour Sunday program as he expands his weekend footprint. Known as one of the more pugnacious liberal media figures in cable news, Hasan joined MSNBC in 2020 after stints at Al Jazeera and the hard-left site, The Intercept. Again, forgive the Fox News editorial bent. Hasan's cancellation comes on the heels of inflammatory remarks he made in 2009, long before becoming an MSNBC personality, circulating online last weekend when they were unearthed by New York Post reporter John Levine, although it doesn't appear the two are related. So yes, Mehdi Hasan, and we've covered this in the past, he's made a lot of homophobic remarks in the past, a lot of remarks that would take you out of good standing with the liberals at MSNBC, but for the fact that at the time he was their most vicious attack dog against the likes of Matt Taibbi, cracking down on internet speech, which is, of course, a hallmark of the MSNBC ethos, right, is to crack down on disinformation and hate speech and all that. So as long as Mehdi Hasan was doing their bidding in that way, they could deal with him. Now that hate speech, quote unquote, could be linked to Islam, and now that Muslims are fighting Jews in the Middle East, well, now that apparently could be a pretext to shit-can him, but maybe not. Hasan compared non-Muslims to animals and linked homosexuals to pedophiles and sexual deviants. In 2019, Hasan apologized for those comments, calling them dumb, offensive, ranty stuff, and admitted that he had said extreme sounding things as a young man. Yeah. I mean, the guy's just a bullshit artist.
It was
file
also
this under bad things happen to bad people, but for bad reasons. That's what this story you could file under.
That's a very good way to put it. Yeah, and they certainly didn't fire him for that because he did his mea culpa, and as we've seen with Joy Reid's homophobic blog post, which I think worse than the crime was the cover-up in that case, where she made these crazy claims that she might have been hacked, going so far as to get the FBI involved in it. I mean, she should be in jail for that. I mean, that's illegal. Like, you can't make false claims like that to the FBI and drain FBI resources, but she's Joy Reid, so she can get away with it. So they certainly don't care that he didn't read from the hymnal before he worked with them. But they can throw that out now if they need to.
Exactly. Now, here's what I suspect, obviously, and as many of you will as well, is the real reason for his cancellation, at least his show's cancellation. Hasan has been one of the strongest critics of Israel in the mainstream media during the ongoing Israel-Hamas war, and he is known for his strident social media commentary and clashes with conservatives and other political foes. When Levine resurfaced the comments, he added that it's hard to imagine MSNBC allowing someone on television who said similar things about a different religion. MSNBC declined comment when specifically asked if the resurfaced comments contributed to this decision. I don't think they contributed to the decision. I think it's revealing that they ignored them when they could have actually punished him for them, right? They let that slip. And then when he took a stance that was inconvenient for them, a good stance, they got rid of him. Right, so they let all the bigotry go when it served their agenda, and now they're shit-canning him for taking the right stance on an urgent issue.
They could resurface that stuff on Joy Reid because she's been surprisingly good on this.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe she's next. In an internal memo, MSNBC president Rashida Jones focused on the positive aspects of the shakeup. Now, listen to this. Look at this joke of a network. As we emerge from a multitude of historic events these past months, we have an opportunity to build our accomplishments and keep the momentum going into 2024 and beyond, Jones wrote in a memo obtained by Fox News Digital. Hasan will remain at the network, bringing his much-needed insight, just not needed enough to let him have his show, but much needed insight and expertise to MSNBC viewers.
They're pulling a Barton Fink on him.
Exactly.
We're going to keep you under contract. You're not going to be able to write for anybody else. We're going to own everything you write, and we're not going to produce anything that you write.
Right. We'll bring you on once a week as a political analyst and fill-in host, Jones added. Hasan didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. Now look who they're replacing him with. MSNBC is hardly moving away from progressive commentary. Again, the ridiculous Fox News slant. Anybody to the left of Mitt Romney is Che Guevara in their eyes, right? In another programming decision this week, it's launching a weekend morning ensemble show, The Weekend, which will be hosted by, look at this lineup, former Biden aide Simone Sanders.
Rogues Gallery.
Alicia Menendez, the daughter of embattled Democratic Senator Bob Menendez. No, not embattled, of brazenly corrupt criminal Senator Bob Menendez. And Michael Steele, the former Republican chairman who now openly detests the party. So look who they are replacing him with. Look who they're putting up in his place. Simone Sanders, one of the most shameless hypocrites of the modern era, goes from working for Bernie Sanders, trashing the Democratic establishment on TV because she got paid, and then on a dime turns around and defends the Democratic establishment on TV because she gets paid. The daughter of Bob Menendez and a never-Trump Republican. This is why I've said in the past, MSNBC at this point is they're barely even a liberal network at this point. They are basically the Lincoln Project Republican network at this point, right?
They're a neocon
it's just
network.
Wild. What's that?
They're a neocon network.
A neocon network. Now, here's some data that Russell pulled. This is a ratings chart. So you could see on Sunday, October 1st, Mehdi Hasan's average audience share 617,000, and as you could see, it kind of started out good, and then it sort of valleyed out, and then it kind of steadily grew up till that point. And then what happens? Do you guys remember what happened? Because after October 7th, they kind of mysteriously took him off the air for a while. They didn't shit can him. They didn't fire him. It wasn't exactly clear what was happening. Right? We couldn't exactly report that they had fired him or canceled him, but they pulled his show.
And then a couple of guys screamed at Rachel Maddow in a synagogue about
right, exactly. A couple of troublemakers
speaking up for the Muslim anchors.
They tried to defend him. And it didn't quite work. But his show went dark for a few weeks with not much explanation. MSNBC and Peacock said that they wanted to focus more on breaking news because there was a war going on, and that, because he does a structured show, it's hard to do breaking news with Mehdi Hasan because he does interviews. And that we were like, okay, we can't disprove that, but at the same time, it's a kind of a weird decision to make. And notice his ratings never recovered because media is all about momentum. Your show goes off the air for a couple of weeks. It's hard to get the audience back. So if you look, October 1st, 617,000 in the P2 demographic, 1849, 52,000, 25 to 54, 72,000. And then if you look on October 22nd, far fewer viewers because he had that hiatus and it just killed the momentum of the show. Now, given that, I will float a theory, just a theory, could be wrong. This is only speculation based on evidence that we're seeing now. I don't think they wanted to fire him. I think firing him would have made them look too bad. I think they figure, let's take him off the air for a few weeks. Let's just kill the momentum of the show. This way, when he comes back and the ratings are lower, we can just swap him out. It was like a soft firing, basically. They said, we're going to put you in timeout so that the viewers move on, and it's hard to regain that momentum from the show when you come back. And then we'll say, all right, well, now that you're back, all right, the show's lost its fastball a little bit. We're going to swap you out. That seems like maybe it was, because what other explanation to just mysteriously take him off the air for a few weeks? No explanation, no disciplinary action, no nothing.
They definitely took him off the air because of his takes.
Right.
But, and there's no real way to know this. You would have to, get the Rand Corporation to do a deep dive into why audience stopped watching him. I argue we talked when we were preparing this segment, the Venn diagram of Zionists and MSNBC watchers has got to be almost 1-for-1. Like that's got to look like a lunar eclipse. There has to be almost total overlap between people who watch that network and Zionists. So I think his take is a big part of the drop in his ratings. I think for that particular audience, you can't have a guy on there challenging Israel's narrative on this. They just want happy talk. They just want the good old cowboys and Indians. The Palestinians are primitive and at best they're victims of Hamas, and we're actually liberating these people. We're not murdering and genociding them, and any suggestion otherwise is just crazy talk. That's all they want to hear, just like all they want to hear is how Joe Biden is great and the best president since FDR. They don't want to hear anything that's off narrative. And Mehdi is introducing these things that are off narrative. Now, the next thing that we're going to show, I put together a little video clip, and I would recommend, it's on YouTube as of now, I would recommend watching this whole segment because this is everything you hated about Mehdi Hasan in other contexts being used for good. It is really all of his tactics of debate, of throwing off the guest, of pushing the guest, all deployed in the service of a good cause. You know, you watch this and you say, God, this guy could be one of the best we have if he were actually a decent person, because he did such a good job taking apart this Israeli spokesperson.
Yeah, I think that his takes were perhaps a little too raw too soon, which is why they took him off the air for a couple weeks. And I think, you know, it could be a combination of those two factors where on the one hand, they wanted to, you know, shut him up for a couple weeks when emotions were really high in the immediate aftermath of October 7th. And that also had the effect of chilling the show. Right, because you take a show off the air for a few weeks, it's not going to come back with the same kind of ratings unless you're a huge star, which he's not.
Well, but the fact that over the weeks he didn't get his audience back. No, he's been on for a long time and he's a known quantity. He's not like an unknown guy. Right. But some people think that this interview may have had something to do with it. This was the way that Aaron Mate might do this interview. This is the way Max Blumenthal might do this interview. And to have somebody conduct an interview with an Israeli spokesperson like that on MSNBC, it's hard to believe it actually went on the air.
All right, so let's take a look at this interview on MSNBC between Mehdi Hasan and Russell. What was the name? I forget the guy's name who he's interviewing.
I have it right here. Let me see. I'll find it.
Yeah, see if you can pull that up.
Mark Regev.
Mark Regev. Okay, perfect. So obviously we know Mehdi Hasan had his show canceled by MSNBC, and this was an interview from November 16th, which could be part of the reason why his show is no more. Here he is challenging Mark Regev.
Children with my own lying eyes being pulled.
I'm sorry.
I have seen lots of children with my own lying eyes being pulled from the rubble.
Because they're the pictures Hamas wants you to see. Exactly
and also
my
because
point,
they're dead,
they're
Mark.
the pictures
also,
Hamas wants.
But they're also people that your government has killed. You accept that, right? You've killed children, or do you deny that?
No, I do not. I do not. I do not. First of all, you don't know how those people died, those children.
Oh, wow.
First of all, we don't want to see a single child killed.
Okay, here's my question for you, Mark. You say, I agree with you. I agree with you. We shouldn't blindly believe anything Hamas says. But why should we believe what your government says either? Your military spokesman on Monday pointed to an Arabic document in the basement of a Gaza hospital and claimed it was a Guardian list on which every terrorist writes his name. But that was false. It was just a calendar with the days of the week on it. Your colleague in the Prime Minister's office, Ophir Gendelman, posted behind-the-scenes footage from a Lebanese short film and claimed it was Palestinians in Gaza faking their own injuries. That tweet is still up a week later. That is endless disinformation from your government, is it not? So I have a simple question for you. If Hamas gunmen were hiding out in a school in Tel Aviv or an apartment block in Haifa, would you be okay with the Israeli Air Force dropping bombs on those buildings, leveling them, killing the innocent Israelis inside in order to get the Hamas gunmen? Would you do that?
But you're right in your question. Of course, Hamas hides behind students and children. That's their whole policy. That's why we've had the casualties we've had. Hamas deliberately embeds itself, as you said in your question, amongst civilians. The fact that they buried themselves under the Shifa hospital in Gaza City, not one hospital, but a whole series of hospitals. They
Mark,
took
with respect,
over
you're not answering
and
my
they turned
question.
them into
We're short
military
on time.
installations.
Would you bomb?
I am answering your
would you
question.
bomb school? Would you bomb schools?
So as Russell said in the past, this is like that style of interviewing Matt Taibbi, just railroading the guests, just speaking through them, but actually used the way a journalist trying to get facts might use them, rather than a journalist trying to spin a bullshit narrative might use them the way he used them against Matt Taibbi and so many others.
Right. I mean, that's what's so remarkable about this. It's just like, wow, what if he were this person all the time? He would be like the best we have. He would be the best we have. And,
right, because he has the skill set. He just doesn't have the principle.
He just uses it for evil.
Exactly.
Would you bomb schools and houses in Israel if Hamas militants were believed to be under them and kill Israeli human shields in the process?
We don't deliberately kill anyone. That's not a fair question. What we are trying to do is eliminate this
Okay,
threat.
would you accidentally kill Israeli human shields? I'm asking you a very simple question.
We wouldn't want to accidentally kill anyone. We wouldn't accidentally, no, we wouldn't accidentally want to kill anyone.
Last question for you. You've got ministers in your government, I have to ask this question. Amichai Eliyahu, who said Israel should consider dropping a nuclear bomb on Gaza, which would kill over 2 million people. He's still in your government. Avi Dichter, another member of your government, went on TV and said this is Gaza Nakba 2023. And your boss, Benjamin Netanyahu, invoked Amalek, which was a biblical call for killing every man, woman, and child. Mark, do you understand why that cannot be heard as anything other than calls for genocide or ethnic cleansing around the world?
So will you allow me to answer?
Of course.
Number one, that minister was reprimanded by the Prime Minister, Eliyahu, and he was told very forthrightly he's suspended from the government, and if he makes any statements like that again, he's fired. On the Avi Dichter, I think I actually agree with what he said. The Nakba, the tragedy that was brought upon the Palestinians in 1947-48 was because of an extreme irresponsible leadership that wasn't willing to compromise. And Hamas is doing the same thing to Palestinians in Gaza.
Compromise.
And if they are creating
they brought it on themselves.
It's because of
the tragedy of the Nakba was because the people who didn't want to leave their homes weren't willing to compromise. We showed up, we said, hey, actually, the Bible says this land is ours, and you have to leave. And they wouldn't work with us on that. They weren't willing to compromise on that. Wow.
Hi. Yeah, I'm with the Zionist Central Committee. I want to read you this Bible verse because it says clearly right here, your house belongs to us. So you're going to have to leave. I'm really sorry about that. And they just didn't find that a compelling argument. That is fucking amazing. Like, that's a new one. And we've heard a lot of crazy shit from these Zionists over the last couple months. That, wow, they brought the Nakba on themselves because they were unreasonable. Unreal.
And on the third point, Amalek was known in Jewish history, and I'm sure you know this, that they attacked from behind. They killed the women and the children and the people who were sick, who couldn't walk quickly. That's why Amalek is in the Bible is so condemned, because they attacked the innocent.
Correct you here.
No, I know my. Don't tell me I don't know my Jewish history. I know my Jewish history.
Go and attack the Amalekites. Do not spare them. Put to death men, women, and children. Is that what you're doing in Gaza? That's what the Prime Minister invoked.
No. He was describing. First of all, no one in Israel is calling for women and children to be killed. On the contrary. How can you say
your heritage minister did. Really... He said nuke Gaza.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So that was just full disclosure. Russ did kind of a supercut of the highlights of that interview. So if there were some awkward cuts in there, that's why. But yeah, I mean, that could certainly have something to do with his departure, because it's one thing to bring someone on as a guest. It's another thing to give them a show. You bring someone on as a guest, they're dealing with whoever show it is has their own producer and their own team. They curate the content and you give commentary. That's not to say no segments with guests can be guided by the guest, but it's much different from Mehdi saying, hey, I want to interview this guy. I want to ask him these questions. Have these graphics ready to go because we're going to nail him on this, this, and this.
Right.
That may be too hot for MSNBC. I think that's a sound theory. Obviously, it's all speculation. We don't know. But is it a coincidence that an interview like that airs 2 weeks before they say, hey, you know what? We're going to have to keep this guy on as a guest contributor from time to time. We can't trust him with an hour a week.
Yeah, that was a point that Crystal made when they first pulled them all off the air, when they pulled all the Muslims off the air. She said it's very different being a guest. You don't have the control that you have as a host to dictate the segments and the flow of the segments. I think what happened, and you're right, we'll never know, or probably we will know.
We might know at some point. We just don't know now.
Somebody's going to spill the beans. Some insider is going to talk about what actually happened. They just went ahead and pulled the Muslims off the air. And because, like many other institutions, they just haven't known what to do given the cognitive dissonance between the quote-unquote woke branding they've been pushing for all these years and pulling all these Muslims off the air as soon as a war broke out in the Middle East. So I think they panicked and put them back on. And then they saw what that was going to look like and took them back off.
Right. I think that's correct. We'll take a couple of Rumble rants and super chats. I offered to break Assange out, but no takers. No plan. Well, they didn't get back to you, did they? Russell, are you frozen or am I frozen? What's going on?
Am I frozen?
You seem frozen on my end.
I'm not on my end. Let me.
Russell seems frozen. How are we going on the stream? How do we look?
I'm not seeing that. Testing. Let me see. Oh, yeah, the chat's... Oh, no, the chat's moving. So...
It says no one is frozen, but I can't really see Russell. No one's frozen? All right. I'll take your word for it. Not frozen. They are not frozen. Well, you're definitely frozen on my end. And...
what about now?
It says all well in Rumble.
Do you hear me?
No. I hear you fine.
Oh, you hear me, but you don't see me moving?
But I don't see you moving.
So people say here, I'm not frozen. So as long as you can hear me, we're fine.
Am I frozen, everybody?
No, it says both animated.
It's weird because my Rumble window is not refreshing, and you are completely frozen. So it seems like my hotspot is fucked up, but apparently it's not. It says, I think Keaton is frozen. He says we're both fine. Freeze, I'm a cop. Keaton might be lagging a little.
Yeah, I see you lagging a little bit.
What about now?
Now you seem all right.
Yeah, now my Wi-Fi thing.
It's still lagging. Still lagging?
Yeah. All right.
A little bit, but not like we can't finish the show lagging.
It says, no, Keaton was frozen. Looks like Keaton is lagging. Somebody says your mom's frozen. Thank you. Productive. Mature, the most depraved audience on YouTube. Says here,
as long as we're good for the audience and we can hear each other, we can just go ahead and do it.
All right, we'll go ahead. We will press on. We only have one more segment anyway, because I was going to say if the tech is fucking up, we could just save this for Sunday, but I guess we'll try it, right?
Yeah.
All right, fuck it. Do it live.
Fuck it. We'll do it live.
Fucking thing sucks. As long as we're okay. It says we're good. This is weird. People are saying that it's good, but we're not hearing that. All right. So, let's try this. We're just going to wing it. I don't really know what the hell's going on, but we'll wing it. And Russell, you may have to end the stream.
All right. No worries.
When we're done. We'll take a look. All right, folks. So this news broke in the New York Times last night. We'll see how much traction this gets because it's a New York Times report, and I think it's a pretty significant one that's not loading on the screen. No, something's fucked up with my tech.
I mean, I see it.
Okay, well, I can't.
I mean, if it's throwing you, then let's just do it Sunday, I guess.
All right, we're going to have to do this Sunday, folks, because it's not... Like, I can't read it.
I mean, I could quarterback that.
I mean, I think we'd probably do it better on Sunday when we can actually both read it and see it. Because something's fucked up on my end. Like, my internet is conking out. It might be my hotspot.
Yeah, you are lagging. So, yeah, it might be better before you just, like, conk out and disappear.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to do it half-assed. All right, folks. So we're going to take super chats and then end the show slightly early. We still did 2.5 hours, but I think my phone gave us all the juice it could for internet. So I'm going to take some super chats and then we're going to call it here and we'll do this next segment on Sunday. Or maybe we'll just pre-record it since it's kind of breaking and drop it later today or something. Don't let Kirk constantly interrupt you. His advice.
I already have a plan, man. It's going to be like in one of those assassin movies. I'm going to take a steak and fill it with barbiturates and throw it over in the corner so that he eats it and falls asleep.
Yeah, there you go. His plan. Nicole Vance, thanks for the $10. It probably says a lot about me, but when I hear hotspot, I think of ZZ Top Fuzz Box. Yeah, the hotspot is on my phone. So yeah, for those who joined late, we're working off my phone's hotspot signal, and it did great for us for 2.5 hours, but it seems to be dying out. I'm actually a little surprised it lasted this long. We got a lot of mileage out of it.
Yeah.
Franklin Worsham, Biden cannot lose by design. Thank you, Franklin Worsham. Appreciate that. John C., thanks for the 1999 super sticker. Appreciate that. That's very kind of you.
Thank you.
AF America First, of course. Thank you. Thank you for that. By the way, if you're over on Rumble, I don't want to take your money and not be able to read your Rumble rants, so don't give us any more Rumble rants unless you're okay just giving them for good karma, because my Rumble's fucked, so I'm not going to be able to read it now. I think my whole internet is collapsing. The Wi-Fi is back, but if I switch now, it'll kick us out for like 5 minutes, and so I'm not going to bother doing that because I don't know how easy it'll be to get back in with the exhibits. Axel, thanks for the $10. Seeing the leftist coalition gaining ground and strengthening connections between the channels is heartening in these dour times. Keep up the good work and stay sharp. Thank you, Axel. Appreciate that. And yes, we'll be on Jimmy Dore 4 o'clock today, folks. I will be there. My internet, the Wi-Fi is back at my house. I'm just not on it now because it came back midstream. 007 Angelo, thanks for the $2. In 1974, a 4-family home in New York City went for $44,000. Wow. Look at that. Pete Sweet, thanks for the $10. If a friend needs convincing about the reality of Palestine, have them watch Life in Occupied Palestine by Anna Baltzer, Gaza Fights for Freedom by Abby Martin. Yes, great documentaries, Al Nakba, and also Tentura. Yep, Russell recommended Tentura as well.
Not the other two.
You saw Gaza Fights for Freedom, though, right?
I did, yeah. Okay. That and Tentora I saw.
Got it. Okay. McDougal, Mehdi is and has always been fake news by Felicia. McDougal representing
not in that case.
The MAGA delegation. Yes, not in that case. Kevin Bridges, thank you for the $1.99. Okay, and recommended viewing a Rumble rant, the Duran live stream with Colonel Lawrence Wilkinson. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Folks, thank you so much for being here this morning. We got through almost the entire show without the tech giving us many problems, despite a scare
we did
that
a
it gave
full
us.
show.
Yeah, we did a full show. We still did a full show. Still 2.5 hours, and we will either pre-record and drop as a separate clip the Israel segment that we were going to do, or we'll do it on Sunday. So once again, folks, you can go to patreon.com/DoDissidents to help support the show, help us invest in backup Wi-Fi. There you go. That might be a good use of your dollars. Patreon.com/DoDissidents to become a member. We're closing in on 500 members. When we do get there, we will add a 4th weekly stream. You also get call-in access to our Sunday night Q&As and access to 2 exclusive live streams per month. So go to patreon.com/DoDissidents, DoDissidents.substack.com, or DoDissidents.locals.com to become a member. We thank you all very, very much for being here. Russell and I will be co-hosting the Jimmy Dore Show this afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Thank you guys all for being here this morning. We'll see you on Jimmy's show at 4 o'clock today, and we'll see you back here 7 p.m. Sunday evening. Until we see you all again, please do be safe and be well.
Courage.
Please clap.